Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 14 of the VonDubCast. My guest today is Jaime Coutts. He was the fire chief in Slave Lake during the 2011 forest fire that burned down a good 35-40% of our town. It was a very impactful time in my life, and also Jamie's, of course, but very different. And I thought, who better to have on and talk about that and kind of delve back into that subject than the fire chief, right? And it was very interesting to hear his side of the story and my side of the story and where we were at certain times where we were both kind of seeing similar things because everything was changing at such a rapid pace that we had not a lot of information, and we were almost having the same realizations of what was coming at the same time, just at different parts of the town. And it's not a big town, so we were probably maybe a kilometer or two away from each other, but just having vastly different experiences. And it was quite the emotional process to actually do this interview. I was just the goosebumps per minute ratio was off the charts. I was just getting the shivers left, right, and center, just kind of taking yourself back into that. I think when you go through something so traumatic, you kind of don't like to think about it, and you just you move on with your life and you start getting into other things. But when you really delve back into it and get reminded of all these the little details and the things that you had forgotten, it's just quite the experience. And I hope that some people can get a little bit of closure out of it, maybe, or maybe just now that they've had a little bit of time to go back through it and put things where they need to go inside their own emotional suitcases, maybe this will help pack things away a little bit better. I know it sure did for me, and I just hope everyone else can get some out of it, and I hope it's not too tough to listen to for those of you that did or that were affected pretty harshly by the fire. If you lost anything or anything of value to you, whether it be a house, whether it be a friend's house, it seemed like if you lived through that experience, you all knew somebody that was affected quite deeply. So hope it's not too tough to listen to. I won't be offended if you need to turn it off, but I really got a lot out of it. I really enjoyed it. It was really I don't even know what the word was, but really powerful. I think I would say really powerful to for that experience. So I really hope you guys enjoy it as well. And like always, if you guys could follow my Instagram and Twitter pages for the VonDubCast, I'm still have barely any followers on there, and that's my biggest toolkit to get more bigger guests onto the podcast. Is that if I can show that people are listening and are enjoying it, that's kind of the biggest visual indicator. So if you guys could just do me that favor, go and follow those, then you can send me any feedback on there. Like I said, can't thank you guys enough for listening. It's a really fun experience. I'm still enjoying this just as much as the day I started, if not more. So, yeah, enjoy this episode, and I'll see you at the end. Welcome, Jaime. Thanks for coming.
Hey, no problem, man.
Awesome. Yeah, I know when I was kind of going through ideas for this podcast, I was just kind of racking my brain for areas that were meaningful to me, and I knew at some point I was going to have to talk about the Slave Lake fire because it was a pretty meaningful time in my life. And I was just thinking, oh well, who would be good people I could bring on? I thought, well, shit, I think I know a guy, and who better than the fire chief during that whole thing to come on and have a chat about it. So I figured we'd come on, catch up a little bit between me and you, and maybe tell our stories of what we went through during the fire. I think our stories would be a little bit different. Me running off to safety and you running into the danger. But no, yeah.
We
Thanks
probably
for
wish
being
it
here.
was switched around. You probably wish you were running in, and I probably wish I was running out.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. And I was actually just in preparation for this. And it's funny, in preparing and trying to come up with questions to put yourself back into that mindset and go back there. And I haven't thought about it in years and years. And just, I would think I was 16 at the time. And I was definitely, I was thinking about it today, actually talking to my dad, Ingo, because he stayed and was working and trying to help out during the fire, making sure that there was fuel for all the emergency services and all the jet fuel for the bombers and stuff. And I was so mad at him at the time that he didn't let me stay, and I wanted to help so much, and I didn't even think about it. And obviously all he wanted was his family to be safe and for him to be able to concentrate on what he's doing for a family safe. But I didn't even give him moments of compassion in that. I was just so mad at him. And just looking back on it now, I see from his point of view, it's so obvious that first thing obviously you're going to do is get your family out of there. But yeah, no, definitely at the time I was wishing I was still there, but I think that's a little bit of a childish pipe dream. You always think at 16 years old, you're Superman, right? And you can do anything. I think if I was, yeah, exactly. And I think I thought that the whole time I was driving out and the whole time once I was gone, but definitely for that maybe 3 minutes that we were driving on Highway 2 there, to go out and we saw all the houses on fire and stuff leaving, I think I realized, oh, maybe I'm not so tough and maybe that's not where I want to be for that. But then you forget it. But then you get, the next day and you're a tough guy again. Oh, if I was there, I'd be doing all that. You know what I mean? At 16, you think you're all tough and that's
For
that
sure.
sort of thing. So yeah, I just wanted to maybe before we get into that, just how long did you always know you wanted to be a fireman, Jamie, or is it something you fell into or what?
I think if you ask my mom, she'd tell you that I always wanted to be a fireman. I talked about
Yeah.
it since I was a little kid, but I think in probably grade 9, we did some exercises and took a class, and it was called emergency services. And I think from that point, even
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I would be a fireman. Whether it be a volunteer firefighter or whatever, right? But
Right.
I knew I'd be helping out.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And then how long were you the fire chief of Slave Lake?
Oof. Well, I worked there 29 years total.
Wow.
And yeah,
It's a
so
good pull.
first 10 was as a volunteer, and then I worked up to training officer, deputy, and then fire chief.
And how many years had you been fire chief in 2011 when the fires came through?
Oh, I hadn't even been a full year yet.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think I was like 2 weeks short of a full year. So
Holy fuck.
yeah.
Congratulations. Holy shit.
Yeah,
Here's your
yeah.
1 year anniversary of that. And I guess one of the questions I had was I would imagine as a firefighter, you go through a lot of intense experiences and you probably get a sense that you can handle a lot. And within the scope of a general, firefighter's life, you probably saw most of what you kind of think you're going to see. You never know what different degrees it can get to, but you think you have a pretty good idea of what the scope of any type of fire can be, right? We've dealt with forest fires, we've dealt with house fires. How much different was that situation from anything you'd seen before? And do you think you had underestimated what a fire could be in that essence and in what it turned into?
Yeah, you know what? I always think you hear people say, "Oh, trial by fire, trial by fire." That saying that
Yeah,
goes around,
yeah,
and
for
I
sure.
laugh because this was the ultimate trial by fire.
Oh
Right?
yeah,
We'd been trained our whole career, and probably for the guy before me, his whole career. Well, we'll just ring a bunch of fire trucks, hook up the fire hydrants, and start spraying water out into the forest, and we'll put it out, and we'll win because firefighters win. That's just how it works.
yeah.
And so, I can remember you're driving by on Highway 2 talking about looking down and seeing all the houses on fire. Well, I was on 12th Street. So I was on the street you're
Oh
looking at.
yeah,
And, at one point I remember looking around, and I don't know why I did this, but I counted all the houses on fire, and there's 35 houses on fire. And I thought, yeah, this isn't going to work. Like, this whole strategy bombed, right?
yeah.
We're losing this one, and we're losing that.
Oh
And, it was it's those chaos moments where everything you think about something. And I'm a pretty high ego guy. I think I
yeah.
thought I knew a lot about firefighting. In one small instant, it's all gone, right?
Wow.
And it's like my ego was just pushed down to the very bottom. And it's the moment in my life where it was like, you know what, you have to always be learning and always training and always trying to figure out what's going on, because you do not know everything. No
Exactly. You
matter
can
what.
always learn more. Yeah. As soon as you think you know it all, that's when you're in for a world of hurt, right? Oh
For
man.
sure.
So just to back up, I guess I'm curious to get kind of your side of the fact. So a couple days before is when the fires that ended up coming through around Slave Lake, because there was multiple fires as far as I remember. I remember the couple days before there was I don't think it was the actual fire that came through, Jamie, but it was another fire on the other side that we're kind of dealing with before. Maybe it was just a switch of wind direction. But I remember as the town, we were kind of hearing some people were getting stuff ready. Some people, because it happened so often growing up in Slave Lake, I remember, probably we've loaded up the camper for evacuation notice 15, 20 times over, my lifetime up till that point at 16. Right. So everyone was kind of a little bit in that state of, oh, maybe it'll come, maybe it won't. Different people took different actions. But from your guys' side, at what point did it escalate to the different levels that it did? Because I know it kind of changed quickly, but maybe in those first couple of days leading up to it, as the fires you're battling, when did it first occur to you that, oh, this is different?
I think so. There's two fires. You're talking about Fire 56, which was to the west of Slave Lake,
Right.
and then Fire 65. So 9 fires later, the one that finally got us was the next day, later in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And so Fire 56 really started out as your typical, like what you're talking about. We've been through it so much.
Yeah.
It was I was on call that weekend, and it was one of those weekends where I'm on call anyways. I got to stick around the house. Might as well
Yeah.
hammer. I'll get the honey-do list rolling, right? So
Yeah.
top thing, fix the barbecue. Okay, down to Canadian Tire, and And while I was there, a friend of mine calls up and says, I'm quadding out in the bush and I see this big fire um, out by this oil field. And I was like, oh man, okay, well, hang up and call the right people. Thanks for calling
Yeah.
me, but like hang up, call the right people. And so I grabbed my stuff and I said, I'll just get home. And maybe before this gets too bad, I get the barbecue fixed and
Yeah.
keep my wife happy, right? And so get home and
Priorities.
yeah, get home and start ripping my greasy barbecue apart to fix it. And then I was like, you know what? I can see the smoke now from my place in the
Yeah.
northeast part of town. So I phoned up the CAO and said, like, I think we should meet at the fire hall and have a chat. It's about 10 kilometers away. They're working on it, but it's straight south of Widewater Canyon Creek, and I think we should take it serious. And so, honestly, from there, basically for the next 6 days, I
Yeah.
slept about 2 hours.
Oh. Oh my
Right,
God.
and so it just snowballed, and so when you look at those fires, right, 56 to 65, in there was 9 fires, and out of those 9 fires, 3 out of those 9 ran other communities out as well, right?
Wow.
Red Earth, Whitefish
Yeah.
First Nation, Martin Beach, all those places. So
Right.
you know
Because there's the one up towards Red Earth. That's why we couldn't take 88 out that way. So we're kind of stuck.
exactly.
And there's kind of fires all around because that's when things did start to kick off from my side of what we were seeing as it escalated and it was getting close to town. By the time we realized that we would have to evacuate, there wasn't really any routes out. So me and I don't know if other people had already made it out, but we were advised to go to the airport and sit out on the tarmac. So there was felt like us and half a Slave Lake out on the tarmac, all listening to our radios for the signal that we've got a free lane to get out. But then I think if I remember right, I think the radio station that ended up burning down and then the radio just cut. So I can't remember even how. I think maybe someone, and also from my memory, I think the cell phone service, just because of all the chaos and everyone trying to call, you could barely get through on the phone. So nobody really knew. And I don't even think we had heard at that point when we did get the final evacuation notice. I think it was just, you saw cars started to go. So everybody just followed and stampeded out. And that's what led down that highway too. So from your side, who is deciding when to evacuate, when there was a free lane? Was that so you guys, or were you guys so busy fighting the fire at that time that there was a central command making those kind of calls? Or at what point did any help arrive for you guys?
Yeah, I think to be fair, at that point it was so fragmented that
Yeah.
different people were making different calls, and so like I can remember RCMP with their hair on fire, literally
Yeah.
waving people around in the southeast to get them out. And I would say that was probably them. They probably made that call, like, okay,
Right.
now let's get out, like follow Caribou, go around Highway 2 and get out of
Mm-hmm.
here. Where we were, it was. I don't want to be over dramatic, but it was
I
literally
don't think
like
you can be.
I don't know if we thought we would survive where we
Yeah.
were,
Oh,
right? It
that is
was
terrifying.
I would say, to put it in perspective for people, it's like being shoved in an oven while it's turned on, while someone's sandblasting you with hot sand,
Oh,
and then pumping in smoke so you can't breathe on top of that. And it was like
terrible.
that for hours. Like it was just it seemed like the wind would push by just enough fresh air that you could get a gulp and you're back in it, and it would just kind of go like that off and on for hours.
Oh my goodness. So when did the fire first break the perimeter of what we would think of as town? What time was that on the 15th, do you figure?
Well, I'll run it through for you.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take it. I'm sure people will be very curious of the start to finish, kind of the timetable that it all won. Maybe I'll try and hop in when I can, but mostly I
Yeah.
barely remember because I was 16 and then I was out as soon as we were, and we're just hearing stories after that.
Yeah. So for me, I know we had an update at 3:30, and so I had to go down to the government center to our office and
Yeah.
give this update, and so put your phone on vibrate, shove it in your pocket, and say, okay, here's the update. We're talking to the forestry guys, we're talking to firefighters, we're talking to the police, and we're kind of going through it all. And I would say I was probably about 20 minutes into that because I just got to the part where we were talking about weather. And at a briefing about weather, when you're talking about fires, you always start with, if nothing else changes,
Right.
right? So if the wind
Yeah.
doesn't change, if nothing changes, and at this point the fire was in Mitsu, headed our way, but not, the wind was 30 kilometers an hour, and we were
Mm-hmm.
working it out. And so I would say I probably got to 10 to 4 o'clock, and all of a sudden in my pocket I could just feel vibrate, vibrate, vibrate,
Yeah.
vibrate, like just call after call after call. And I thought, for 20 minutes, 30 minutes here, I talked and it never rang once, and now it's rang like 40 times in a row.
Something's wrong.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
actually said, I got to stop, something's up. And I look at my phone, and it's just like pictures of the fire and firefighters saying, what do we do? And so I said, you know what? the wind outside. So we were inside a building. We had no idea that the wind had changed.
Right.
I said, the wind is just howling. The fire jumped the highway. I got to go. And so
Yeah.
it was the last time that I talked to all those people in the command post. And as I was walking out, I met up with the Reeve and the CAO from the MD, and they're like, "Yeah, the fire jumped. It's going to burn down in the MD office for sure. It's gonna hit town." And that's just while I'm passing in the hallway.
Yeah.
And so I get outside. There's this huge black column of smoke where there was literally like no smoke.
Mm-hmm.
And jump in my truck, and I'm heading out to the tourist booth, which is just towards Edmonton from Slave Lake. And so
Mm-hmm.
I drive out there, and I turned off the road. It's maybe 500-600 meters to the tourist booth. And as I drove down that 500 or 600 meters, it went totally black.
Oh.
And I was like, I'm dead. What did I do here? And so I don't know how, but I found the right turnoff, drove around the backside of the tourist booth, and the building was kind of blocking the wind and the smoke. So all of a sudden I could see the building, and I could see the highway again.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I could make it. And so I spun around the building straight into the black again. And I don't know how, again, found the entrance and drove, that 500-600 meters, and all of a sudden it cleared up again. Because I'm on.
Yeah, that was the weirdest part. It would clear up and get dark. And I remember, because that was the same thing for me. I'd probably about this time, 3-4 o'clock on that day, I was out in Gloryland at my high school girlfriend's at the time, thinking nothing's wrong, because on that side is clear blue skies and you could see the big cloud over there. But like you say, but then that wind changed. And as I was trying to drive back, I think it was on Caribou there, same thing, just pitch black. I couldn't see the road, couldn't see anything for a bit. And holy shit, this is scary. And then you come out and then it's fine again. And that was kind of, and then I could start to hear some of the, I don't know, maybe I just got into town there, because you could start to hear the, it was like pops, and I don't know if it was ammo and all the, I mean, we're all hunters in Slave Lake. You got propane bottles, and that started going. And that's when that, I guess you guys were already on that side, but just because I hadn't seen that side of town and how bad it was, that was that first kind of instinct of the sound that you start to hear of, oh, that doesn't sound good, right? This is worrisome. Not to interrupt you. Sorry, keep going there.
No, and so it's actually great to hear the perspective, right? So you and I are only like 2 kilometers apart.
Exactly.
And,
if that.
And then it's bad, and I know it's bad, but and that's the thing about this fire. Like, it never really got that big. It was only 8,000 hectares, right?
It was just quick.
Oh, and laser focused, right? Like an arrowhead, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I got back to the highway, and then I drove down Main Street, got back to Main Street, because I didn't think Highway 88 would be good. So I drove down Main Street, and there was people like flying everywhere. But in all of that chaos, I can remember that people would stop and let other people in, and one guy's helping back up a camper, and I was thinking, like, in all this chaos, there's still human nature is still there, and it's still great.
At every step of the way, you could see the better part of human nature. And that was exactly it. People wrecking down gates to help other people get out and not leave a man behind. It was very beautiful feeling to come from that community. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. My hair stands up thinking about that, right? It was very beautiful every step along the way, right during the fire, and then the response after, and I'm sure we'll get to that, but just to see Alberta as a whole come together. And I mean, myself and a lot of people ended up in Westlock or Athabasca in there, and just to see their communities just come out in force. They had, for people that lost houses, they had everything. You could walk into these rooms, they'd have, coffee makers, blankets, clothing, anything you could think that would be in your house, they had donated already. And every step along the way, hotels were giving us, giving decreased payments and stuff, so you could help the people out that don't have a lot of money to stay 2 weeks in a hotel. Just to see the positive groundswell around it was very beautiful. I mean, you guys probably only got to see part of that at the end. Well, actually, now thinking back on that, I guess you probably got to see the most concentrated areas of the best of human nature. So yeah, throughout that, what were maybe some of the moments that you saw people really stepping up for each other, and maybe some of the beautiful moments you saw during that chaos?
Yeah, I think as I came down and pulled around and got to 12th, on 12th Avenue, I saw the best and the worst of everything.
Yeah.
I just stopped at the first fire truck, and I remember this guy said, "I left my truck, my own personal truck, on Highway 88. Can I just hang out with you guys?" And I didn't know the guy, but I was like, "Yeah, sure. Like, just hang out, buddy. Like, I think we're going to be safe here. I don't know, right?"
Yeah. I don't know what's going on yet.
And so, I was with a few guys that, Carl Hill and Ronnie Lucan and Joel Auger, and we're just kind of like, there's all of these small crews of people working all over the place, but we're all kind of on our own. There's no real central organization, right? And so, Carl Hill goes in the back, and he's coughing and gagging and dying, and and we're trying to pull him out with the hose, but he's out there fighting. And then you go down 2 houses, and I remember this older gentleman came out, and he's like, I don't know what to do. And I said, it's too late, bud. Like, just go in your house, pay attention. We'll get you out when we can. But like, embers are hitting us, and it's so hot and so crazy. And so he went back in, and then I went to the next house, and this she comes up, and Jamie, and just to clarify, that's pretty unfair. Like, everybody knows me, but there's no way I can know 7,000 people,
Yeah,
right? So
for sure.
I'm like, what? And she's like, my kid's in the car, but I can't get the garage door open, and my house is on fire.
Holy
And
shit.
so I go chasing after her in the back of the house. The deck's on fire, and it's coming up. And I remember I went in the garage, and there's this beautiful black Chevy redone, just like, this guy's dream car.
Yeah.
And I jump up on the hood, and I run up onto the roof, and I pull the emergency handle
Yeah.
off the garage door, throw the garage door open. And I think, even though I know the house is on fire, I'm thinking to myself, like, this guy's gonna kill me. Like, I just,
yeah, exactly. You got that in the back of your mind.
And so she backs out and takes off, and then I come out, and this guy, him and his wife, are coming out of their house, and he's like, well, my deck's on fire now, I gotta go. And I was like, yeah, sounds good, get in your car, let's go. And so all these people are leaving. We had this big hose across the road, and we still had some water then, so it's a 5-inch hose full of water. And this red Sunfire comes blazing down the road, out of the smoke. Sees us, right? What do? Up onto someone's front lawn, through their little white picket fence, down over top of our hose, and then keeps going. And it was so surreal, because like, where are they going? Who was this?
Yeah.
And no brake lights the whole time. Like, they're just on the throttle on, right? And you don't even have time to be mad, because you're just like, well, they're just trying to.
It's chaos at that point, pretty much. Yeah.
So, and that's all just on 12th in probably 15 or 20 minutes, right? And so then I go back to the truck, and houses are on fire all over the place. And Ronnie Lucan, I said, Ronnie, get over here. And we looked down the road, halfway down the road, and I said, look, there's a house catching on fire halfway down the road. There's so many on fire, but I thought, it's way down there. Maybe we can save this one. And he looks and looks, and then he says, oh, that's my rental house. Those guys moved out yesterday. Don't worry about it.
Holy shit.
And he literally just turns and walks away, right? And I'm like,
oh,
I don't know what to say. What do you say?
I guess, yeah. I mean, it's
so
your call, I suppose. Yeah.
So I just turn
on to the next one.
Yeah. And I get back, and now Ronnie and Joel are just screaming at each other, right? And I mean, you can imagine it's high tempo.
Of course.
And then so I just snap, and I'm like, look, you guys, all we got's each other. Like, everybody else is gone. All we got, and it turns into one of those, like, I love you, man. And everybody,
yeah.
And then as fast as it started, it's over, and we're all back at work.
Yeah.
And it was, so I took those moments, we got a history together. You're close to my son's age, and saw you all through your life, and got to coach you some hockey and stuff. And so those kinds of moments are those ones you kind of take through your life, and you go, how much I'm super mad right now, but how important is it really? Like,
really,
flashback to that moment, flashback to, right? And it's like, what am I mad about? Who cares?
Yeah,
right?
it gives you a real healthy dose of perspective that you can carry with you the rest of your life, or you should carry with you the rest of it. It's hard not to, really, if you go through something that big. So at that time, you're the chief, and you probably have crews all over town in a similar situation. But did you know where your guys were at that point, or was it just kind of a free for all, everyone trying to react as best they could, or did you have an idea of where they were?
I think what we put across the radio was like, you're working in small pods, small groups. You probably have some kind of boss there with you. Follow that boss's lead. Like, there's no way to have at this point an overall coordinated. We're gonna get together. We're gonna try and figure out a coordinated way to do this. But for now, like, honestly, just survive and
pretty
get the
much
people out. And if you can fight a little fire, do it. But more
concentrate on getting everyone out safely, because at that point it was already, you could have had 1 million firefighters at that point. There wasn't much you could do. And oh man, I just thinking that, of trying to put myself in your position as I was trying to come up with questions, it was overwhelming, because I imagine and hearing that you'd only been in that position for a year at that point, of just, those are your family, and those are guys, you really care about all your firefighters, and to know just how scared you are and what you're going through minute to minute, all these different things you're dealing with, and to know that your guys are doing that. Was it just too much chaos for you to even think about that at the time, or was that in the back of your head too, of, are all my guys okay, and that kind of thing?
Yeah, at that point, I was thinking to myself, like, we've trained everybody right.
Yeah.
They're smart, they're dedicated.
Yeah.
They're going to do the best they can. Everybody's going to make sure they come home. No one's going to kill themselves for this.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really thinking at that point was, all my buddies that work for forestry, because they're a lot closer to the
Right.
action sometimes than
Right.
us. I was thinking about all those mill workers and oil field workers that work
Right.
shift work, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
it's Sunday afternoon. How many people are sleeping up trying to get ready for night shift, or
Yeah.
just like the
Definitely. Oh.
chaos of that, right? So,
Oh.
it's not, don't just ring the doorbell. Like, you got to go in every house and make sure
Yeah, you got
everybody's
to
out.
knock on every door, and yeah, some guys sleep with earplugs and shit. You got to make sure and clear. It's
Yeah.
almost a breach and clear at that point to make sure everyone's okay. And did you know at that point that help was on the way? Did you know? Had you heard that other fire? I mean, I'm sure you assumed that, but had you heard explicitly this, like Athabasca fire crews coming and these guys are coming, or was it kind of you're on your own until you hear differently?
I don't think up until probably 7:30 at night, we had no idea what was going
Holy.
on. We were just yeah, and I'll come back to that 7:30 at one, because that actually happened just down from your place.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah,
all
what
right.
happened there? So yeah, like, I can remember having a phone call with the forestry manager, and I'm cussing him out, asking about bombers and helicopters,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like just a super quiet, calm guy, and he's like, Jamie, if they go up, they're gonna crash. Like,
Yeah.
the wind's blowing 120 kilometers an hour, and I was like, oh, right,
Yeah.
sorry, right. And so we hang up, and it's kind of like one of those, hey, like, take care of yourself, man, do the best you can, stay safe.
Yeah.
And so, there's the 25-year friend. You finish like that, and then our 911 folks, the power was out, so they're getting a hold of
Mm-hmm.
us, and they said, like, we know the radio is going to cut out soon, and we've got like 35 calls in the queue, you know waiting to tell you what they are. And I said, I think I know what they are, so, like, just I'll talk to you guys when I talk to you. Thanks for hanging in there with us. And the one I was talking to was actually crying. So,
Oh.
and those dispatchers are like stone cold,
Hardened.
right?
Exactly. And when they're breaking, oh,
So I
yeah.
knew. So I'd had this really emotional conversation with my buddy Ian, and then I had this really emotional conversation with the 911 folks. And the whole time, I'd told my family, my wife and my two kids, get out,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
so I just assumed that was happening. I didn't know that they were in a huge traffic jam on Caribou Trail, and that eventually they just gave up and came back to the fire hall, and they were actually manning the phones and spraying down the vehicles and working at the fire hall.
Right.
So, I'm thinking they're on the highway headed to
Long
Edmonton,
gone. Yeah.
and they're at the fire hall. So, probably I would say, so that's mostly like 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Some people I know really good, they pull up on 12th, and they're like, how do we get out? They're cussing me out, or they're just crying, or,
Yeah.
all these different emotions.
Emotional.
And I don't really know what to tell them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the town's burning down. I
Yeah,
don't,
exactly.
sorry.
I know about as much as you do and probably less.
Yeah, and so, we just kind of stay in that firefight, and then we had said, okay, we have to start getting organized, tracking
Mm-hmm.
everyone down, figuring it out. And right around when that happened, we get this call to Old Town, and so, that's only half a kilometer from your house, right?
Yeah.
It's right where the water intake is at the end of your road.
I sure know that. Yeah.
Yeah, so they call us up, and they said, you got to get over here. The fire's burning around town, and it's going to come down. And so we shoot over there, Carl Hill and I, and the grass is 4 feet tall and dry, and the fire's
Mm-hmm.
coming around through all those cabins in Old Town,
Yeah.
and so behind us there's your place, and
Mm-hmm.
the fuel depot, and all
Yeah,
these
exactly.
shops.
That's what I was going to say, because that's where I think I can interrupt you there, Jamie, and say that part. So Ingo had told us, yeah, family, get the hell out of there, right? And he said, I'm right behind you and just going to grab another truck, to us. So we were all waiting at the airport waiting for him, but we couldn't get a hold of him. But he never was, he had never planned it at all to leave. He just knew we wouldn't go unless he said that. So I guess right after we pulled the pin, he got a call saying down at the water plant, the power was out and there's no water to the hydrants. So he just hopped in the loader and grabbed one of the Nipissey generators and just drug it down Old Main Street there down to the water, and was trying to get that going. And then he said they were working on it, but then power came back. So he kind of ditched that and walked back. And he said he just got home and everything's crazy and chaos. And he walks out to this end of the driveway for a little break, and he looks to the left and he sees the fire coming down towards the intake too. And he said, holy shit. And then and that was the other thing. We were doing we had to make sure there was fuel for all the firefighters, the RCMP, all the forestry guys that were coming in.
Yeah.
So we were trying to keep that up, and then power went out there too. So we're bringing generators over there, and another piece of that too. So you have the fire on the one side of town, then the fire coming down the pump house, and then we have all that jet fuel for all the bombers around Alberta that we're drumming. We have thousands of liters of drum jet fuel here that now firing closing around, but we need to keep drumming because the water bombers are going to be a key piece. Like you said, they couldn't get up in the air right there, but we knew once they did, it was going to be all hands on deck to go. So they had to kind of keep enough crew. I think Ingo said it was 3 of them that stayed there to keep that going. And then, yeah, that night they would have to sleep in shifts too, because they didn't know what was going to change. But he just said that's funny that you say he's going towards the water intake, because he said, yeah, he thought that was the moment of clarity to take a break. He looks out to the left at the end of the drive and sees the fire coming on that side. Now, holy shit, no, it's everywhere.
And he probably saw the fire we lit, because what we did is we just went to the intake and it's surrounded by roads, so we just lit it up. And the town guy, he's just sitting there in tears, and he's like, "What are you doing? You're going to burn all those houses down." And I was like, you see that 100-foot wall of flames that's coming our way? It's going to burn all those houses down. They're all evacuated. And so all we're going to do is burn a big swath here, so that when it gets here, it'll lay down and stop.
Exactly.
And so, not everyone knows what we know. So it's those emotional parts.
Yeah, especially, and even if they do know that you probably have a good reason, when you're emotionally in that state, you're not thinking clearly enough to even put that together. Even if you did know that, right? You're just so worked up, you're emotional, and you're upset, and you're scared, and you don't want to say that. So it comes out as anger, and I can imagine.
We're like you. We know that max fuel's right behind us, and there's so much fuel, and that we know we need all of that. And so, as much as, how do you decide what to protect and not protect? It's kind of you're prioritizing in the moment. And we know that if it gets down there, crosses over onto Seguin's land, and it's going to get you guys. And now where are we going to get fuel from? It's got to come from another 2 hours away, right? And so we're just doing what we got to do to survive. Right?
Yeah, pretty much.
The stuff we need. So we light that up and take off down the road and head back to the fire hall and try and I guess
regroup.
Get a map out and try and get a hold of everybody, and say like, how are you guys doing? Where is everybody? What can we do to help? Right?
Is everyone okay? Is everyone safe? What was the first point, I guess, in that day where you got to hear confirmation of all your guys that they were all okay? I guess at that point it was still a long road ahead, but at what point did you get that, okay, all my guys are good, we can regroup and make a plan of attack? Was that around when you got back to the fire hall?
Yeah, I would say that was the first time that I got to talk to every individual, commander in the field. But before that, about 5:30, we'd told everybody, if you have to leave the line and go help with your family, or if you have to leave, or whatever you have to do, just leave. Like your family comes first. And if anything goes wrong or anybody gets hurt, you have to get a hold of me immediately. And so from 5:30 on, I kind of felt like I would hear if something bad happened to anybody. Okay. But at 7:30, 8 o'clock, when we got back to the fire hall, was the first time that I actually physically got to jump on the phone or the radio and talk to every single crew leader and say, get who's there, write it down, right? And then we look at our list, and then anyone that's not on the list, we give them a phone call, right? We had a few guys driving their family out. We had a few guys that were out and were trying to get back in. And so I'd say 7:30, 8 o'clock, we knew that we had accountability. And then while we were doing that, we were also working down the list of where's everyone's families. Right? Because I get back, imagine my surprise. I walk through the door and there's my wife running the phones, and my son's hauling hose and telling us what, let's do this, let's do that. Yeah. And so, all of that, those chaos pieces are happening right there. Right. And you can imagine my phone. So at that time, we had this TELUS package where the town got to pick 10 numbers, and they were called priority numbers. And of course, I was lucky enough to get one of those. So my phone's working. And I can remember, nice. Yeah, like in all of this, right? It's Sunday afternoon, and people are calling me, hey, I'm on a cruise. How's my house? Hey, what's going on? The mill's calling me, and then in all of this, my mom calls me up, and she's like, it's Sunday, and I'm supposed to be off. So she's like, hey, how are you doing? I was like, Mama, I can't talk. Like,
little busy.
You're gonna watch the news and know that we're all safe, and nobody's died that we know of yet. But I'll call you when I get a chance.
When I can,
and I didn't talk to her again for days right after.
Yeah, we can imagine. Probably was hard to talk to anybody. And I know you said around 7:30 was that time. Is that also when you heard that there's a little bit of cavalry coming? You just kind of had to hold out. There was reinforcements on the way. Did you hear that at that point too?
Yeah. So at around that time, we finally on a landline got a hold of our dispatch, and I just said, like, call all the locals, right? So our dispatches for like 38 fire departments in Northern Alberta. I said, call them all. Tell them to send me what they can. Kind of, this is what I need, right? I need water, I need firefighting experience, and so she says, okay, I'll call them all. And so we started to get some feedback, right? The close ones, High Prairie's coming, Athabasca's coming, St. Albert's coming, right? But then I would say it's more after that, 9, 10 o'clock. we heard from the office of the fire commissioner, and that's when we found out like 100 firefighters from Calgary are coming, 100 firefighters from Edmonton are coming, like 30 pumper trucks are coming.
Nice.
So then you're like, okay, so by about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, we knew there would be 5, 6, 700 firefighters, 50 fire trucks. And so of course now you got to get ready for that.
Yeah, and start to plan all that and that. Oh man, that headache and making sure everyone's not stepping on each other's toes. And during all that, you still had crews out in the field fighting as the fires that they could, right? Trying to save as many houses as they could while you're planning all that, I would imagine.
Oh, for sure. Like we had crews out worrying about 56 in Canyon and Widewater. We have crews,
yeah, exactly,
right? Out in the Gloryland MD office area, we got lots of crews in town. I think we had 60 people fighting fire in town. But like you said earlier, 6,000 wouldn't have been enough, right? So
yeah, exactly.
You're trying to prioritize, and then you're trying to get this snapshot of what this all looks like. Normally we'd go up in a helicopter and we'd know exactly what it looked like. Can't do that.
No.
So then, okay, well, we'll drive around. Can't do that because you can't see and you're putting people at risk. And so then it was kind of just like call everybody and find out what you could see. And so, one of your coaches that you had a lot, Richard Chamago.
Love him.
He's calling me constantly from Springwood, right? He's out in there kind of where his house is with a crew of guys. And he's like, I need a water truck. And he would call me like every 30 minutes. And finally I was just like, Richard, don't call me anymore. I'll call you when I have a water truck, and I don't have one, so don't bother me. And what I found out later is like basically every time a house burned down and another one started, he would call me to try and get a water truck. Yeah. And so like every 30 minutes a house is burning down. He's sitting there watching it, doing what they can with very little water, and trying to. And so finally, it was probably 1 o'clock in the morning, and I called him and I said, "Hey, guess what? I'm sending you 2 water trucks." And he was so excited, right? Because now finally you could bring the fight to the fire instead of
exactly. And probably that was a big motivating factor for a lot of those guys, just to start to hear those when you go through something so hard. I was actually listening to a podcast last night, and he was equating it to fighting. And there's something about being in a stressful state like that. Those small wins can give you that mental edge. It won't give you any more actual physical resources to keep going, but mentally it unlocks something in your mind where those little pieces of effort, like you say, if it's just a couple water trucks after you've been in this hell for however long, it gives you that extra boost, that that second win to kind of keep going. And I'm sure it was in a million different forms for all the different guys. It might have been a water truck for him, or just hearing that there was, guys on their way to come help you for the other guys. But I think that was probably a really important piece for those guys, because if you don't have that, if it's just negative, I don't know if guys would be able to keep going for that many days straight with no sleep and those kind of conditions, like you say, all that smoke and the heat and that wind. That wind was crazy. What'd you say? 120 kilometers? And then the fire itself starts to create its own wind. It was just a nightmare. You almost couldn't even talk. It was so loud out there, just with the wind and the fire itself, right?
Yeah. You can imagine what that wind's doing as you're trying to talk on the microphone.
Yeah. Right? Can't hear shit.
No, everybody's like, what'd he say? Yeah. I remember we were in like this massive firefight. Right in the middle of it, the town office was catching on fire downtown.
Yeah.
And so one of the captains calls in and says, hey, I need more trucks here. I need more help. And there just wasn't enough to go around. Yeah. At the same time, another captain calls and he says, there's fire all around the hospital and embers are landing on the roof. And if we don't get some more trucks here, we're going to lose the hospital.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know me, I'm not that patient of a guy, but I was like, I'll give you guys 30 seconds. You think about what you need. And if I send you 2 fire trucks, if you can save it. And so, I was given a bunch of orders and we're figuring stuff out. And finally I called these guys back, and the guy at the office said, I don't think I can save it if you send me 10 fire trucks. Right? Yeah. And the guy at the hospital said, you send me 2 fire trucks and, I'm going to all but short of guarantee you a win here.
Yeah.
Right? And so we just said, all right, let's pull off this one and go to the other one. And later on, so it's just really those guys saying which one is why we picked the one we did.
Right.
A hospital's worth $100 million and you have to have it to survive a town.
Exactly.
Right? And we used it many times. We had lots of people get hurt and went down there.
Smoke inhalation and all that kind of stuff.
The other one's $38 million, and it's sad that it burned down and things like that. But it turns out, it works out that we picked the right one and got the right one. But it's there was never a thing where we said, oh, we're going to let this one go and we're going to save this one. It was just kind of like, we have enough to save this one, so let's do it.
Exactly. And that was part of the reason I really wanted to have you on, Jamie, was to kind of let that open people's minds to that too, because I think there was a lot of armchair quarterbacks. I don't know. I would hope that you didn't hear a lot of that, but I just kind of want to ask you, how did you feel after kind of coming through all that and knowing all that had to go into all those decisions and how tough they were to make in the moment and all the chaos that you had to go in, and then to hear people, did you hear a lot of that, people saying, well, why didn't you do this? Why did you do that? Or was most people pretty polite about it?
You know what? I think it's pretty. The percentages are the same worldwide.
Yeah.
I'd say 99% of the people were really awesome about it.
Mm-hmm.
Really tried to understand, even though they were
Yeah.
upset. And 1%, I just flush them.
You're
down
always going to have 1% assholes, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think also it might even be, even if it was 2%, I think that at least half of that 2% wouldn't be smart enough not to say it right to your face. They know better.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Be
Yeah.
getting a knuckle
I didn't get a
sandwich.
lot of that.
That's good. That's good, right? Because that was something that I had after, because when you're in that situation and seeing some of those things that we saw, for me, it was obvious everyone's doing the best they can, but you just hear people, they always have their opinions. And and I think that's good to hear the in-depth side of what goes into those decisions, all the feelings and the emotions going around them, because that's more so what's important in those moments, is understanding exactly what's going into those decisions. It's not just like you're sitting there at home, like, or you are 2 weeks later saying, oh well, if you put those trucks here and did this here, you could have maybe saved a couple more, right? At that time, you don't have that. You don't have the luxury of the time, the equipment, water, like you're saying. So that's another maybe question before we go any further. What dictates the amount of water? Is it just because so many trucks are trying to pull off the hydrants all over town, there's only so much getting sucked out and run through? Is that what dictates how much water? And then when you're saying get more water trucks in, where's that water coming from then?
Yeah, so it kind of starts off, we're gonna hit all the fire hydrants and suck from
Right.
that. But you can imagine we got like 4 big trucks sucking on that
Mm-hmm.
line on 12th Avenue.
Yeah.
12th Avenue is only a kilometer long, so how much water can you get out of an
Right.
8-inch pipe, right?
No shit.
And then the water plant. So you talked about that, right? So
Yeah.
your dad's down there trying to help those guys get the water plant fired back up,
Mm-hmm.
and that takes time. So you only
Yeah.
have what's on the reservoir hill, which is 125,000 gallons.
Holy shit!
Um,
And what do your big trucks pump at when you're blowing water out of those?
Anywhere from 1,000 gallons a minute to 1,500 gallons a minute.
Holy shit! So you got 4 of those going. That reservoir's gone in a second, right? Holy
Right.
shit!
Yeah, and people
So,
have left their sprinklers on, and people are water
spraying
trucks
down their
are coming
houses,
through
and
trying to. Yeah, and so the water trucks are better because you can send them to the river and they can suck all the right, and
mm-hmm.
you don't need chlorinated water, you don't need fancy water, and so they're bringing us back large volumes of water that we can put on that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be processed, right? So
Right.
that was better. But by 5 o'clock we had no power, no water. The phones are down except for about 10 of them in the whole town.
Holy shit!
Our communication with our 911 dispatch is down. Our communication with the forestry folks is down. Everyone's worried about everybody, firefighters, families, all the residents that live here, and it's just chaos.
Yeah, and a small town like that, you think if you're scared for your family, but in a small town like Slave Lake, 7,000 people, your family is not your family. The entire half the town is your family. Really, you're so close with everybody, and everybody that drove out of town on that on Highway 2 there looking in there of those houses on fire, guaranteed everyone knows at least 40 people in those houses of just that area. So guarantee at least somebody I know, right? When I drove by there, I was thinking of the Millers, I was thinking of the Malbus, I was thinking of all those houses. And at that point, you have no idea who or what's gone at that point, but just that fear and that sinking feeling of, oh man, I don't know who, but this is gonna be bad. And I think until we had that moment of driving by there, and then once we got out of town to Westlock, we watched the news, and then we're getting a little bit. But even the news wasn't getting. There wasn't much news coming out because it was so much chaos. What were you going to report on? You guys barely knew what was happening, right? Let alone the next couple levels to let the rest of the world know what's happening. It seemed like not until the next day that we even see it, but not to get to the next day. So where we were about midnight. So then all night, I'm assuming it's fighting fires. And when did the first reinforcements start to show up?
So I remember the first real reinforcements were a truck came from High Prairie, and they said they had to like stick their head out the window with their thermal image camera to see through the smoke to stay on the highway.
Shit.
The Athabasca guys had some luck coming down because they were with the wind, right?
Yeah.
But we're dispatching those guys as they pull in. Like the Telus building's on fire, so go there. There's a bunch of houses on fire in the northwest, sorry. So go there, and so you're not like really seeing anyone. They're driving through the fire hall parking lot and going to
getting their directions and heading out.
Right.
Holy
and
shit.
so even at that time, we probably got 100 firefighters trying to use one radio channel. And at that time, we maybe had 10, 12 radios, right?
Holy shit.
It's not nothing like
Wow.
today, right? So
Yeah.
it's yeah, like the first time I thought, this might be okay and we might not get enough firefighters is the fire chief from Strathcona County, Daryl Reed was his name, and he comes through the door, and he's been doing it a long time, and he's a great guy and has a big
Yeah.
reputation, and he walks through the front door and he sticks his hand out and he says, "I'm Daryl Reed, and they sent me to help run this fire." And there's that ego point where you're like, do you just like, well, we're doing this without you, bud, hit the road,
Yeah.
or do you step forward, take his hand? And so you know me well enough to know that I stepped
Yeah.
forward, shook his hand, and said, "Thanks for coming, man. Like we need you here. Let's get rocking, eh?"
All the help we can get.
And so maybe by 2:30, that was around 2 o'clock. By 2:30, we were unloading, a dozen fire trucks, and hundreds of firefighters had showed up in buses.
Nice.
And we started hearing the stories about how, when they went through the Anthony Henday in Edmonton, the Edmonton City Police gave them a police escort. So like
Wow.
they just split the traffic, and these buses just howled through the Anthony Henday, and on the highway, nobody ever pulls over for us. It's this, yeah, I'm getting the same. No one ever pulls over for us, but on the
Yeah.
highway, when they went through, like 100% of the people were out of the way, and these buses just howled down the middle of
Wow.
the highway. And
Oh, I keep getting chills. This the whole thing. My whole body's just tingling. Oh,
it was crazy. And so that was, I think by about 3 o'clock, we'd sectored the town. We knew where all the crews were. We were assigning new crews. And I went upstairs. Kirsten and Ryan and Sarah were upstairs, and
yeah.
they can't sleep, but they're laying there.
Of course not.
Think.
Yeah.
And so I put my head. We had one pillow for all four of us to share, so we're kind of start out there. And
yeah.
the kids are asking me questions, and Kirsten's pretty quiet. And I said, like it's we got our ass kicked today, but tomorrow will be a different story.
Yeah.
Right. So tomorrow we're bringing our A game, and so from there, kind of just talked to them for a half hour, and then I went back downstairs and back to work. And so it's those little points, and we do, like I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, it's living in this town has never been the same for me since.
No, I can't imagine it would be.
And never will be, right? I mean, every house that burned down in the Southeast, I'd been in it.
Yeah.
I lived here for 40 years. I grew up here. That was my part. That was my hood, right?
Yeah.
And so, every single place that burned to the ground, I knew. I could probably tell you the last 5 people that lived there. If that family lived there their whole lives. And so, in your own town, it's not just a bunch of things. It's not a bunch of blank people. It's
a
like
community,
you say, right? You know every single person, and that's really hard to just keep going, right? But it also makes it more personal. So
yeah, exactly. It makes it, and that's maybe the difference. That's what keeps you going to go 6 days on 2 hours of sleep, because it is personal, and you do have that personal stake in the game. And I think when you become a firefighter, you almost have to make it personal. In order to do a good job, you have to have that level of care as if it was your house you're going to help. But I think that takes it to the next level when it is your community that you grew up in and that you need to defend. It's you're fighting for your home. Really, it's almost analogous to war and what people do, right? It's you're fighting an enemy for your homeland and protecting it. And just that, I can't imagine. Like I said, I was nice and safe in Westlock at that point, but it just, I can't imagine what you guys were going through, and to hear you say, you got that little half hour with your family, and just to think of all the guys on the cruise too, that hopefully all of them knew that their families are safe, but with all that chaos going on, and like we said, it's not just your immediate family. You don't know if everybody's okay. I mean, it's amazing that everyone made it out, evacuated safely. That's almost that is a miracle. And I mean, testament to the community itself and everyone, to you guys, to the RCMP, to everyone helping get people out. But then, like I said, you see people ripping down gates and, knocking their own fences down to cut more areas to get them out of town, and just everybody stepping together. That was a real miracle that everyone did make it out alive, out of the evacuation. It's just
those first days really make you believe in community. Right?
100%.
Everybody pulling together. It blows apart later when everybody's emotions get caught up, and it's because it's really all about emotions. It's not about
100%.
Anybody actually thinking anyone did anything bad. It's just about emotions. But definitely, I'm with you. Like that community, and some of us get to feel it in other ways, right? And so you and I can bond together a little bit with hockey.
Yeah.
right? Coach and player and those relationships. And so there's all these little communities that you can put together. I'm sure the baseball kids feel the same thing with their coaches,
Hmm.
and our fire family feels the same way. And even at work, right? Your
Yeah.
work family, you're all together, and so you get little tastes of that. But
Hmm.
when these big disasters happen, it's like global tastes of that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, later on down the road, I can remember opening up an envelope, and it was from a little girl in Japan, and there was 20 yen in there. I think that's what they call their money. It's
Yeah.
basically $20 that she got for her birthday, and she didn't want to spend it. She wanted to send it to us and make sure
Oh,
we're gonna be okay.
yeah. It's
And
beautiful. Hey,
yeah, $500 from some Australian firefighters that I think they even made fun of themselves and said we threw some shrimp on the Barbie and
there
made some
you
money
go.
for you guys, and so we get this nice letter. And it was you remember, like, coming back into
Yeah.
town, it was people took care of each other for a while.
It was beautiful, and it was and nice to feel it every time, and that community support, because pretty much the whole entire town was evacuated, 7,000 people, and most of them all went to Edmonton. I mean, if you had family close, but it felt like and West Edmonton Mall Fantasyland Hotel did a big deal. I can't remember what it was, maybe 50% off for everyone. So pretty much all of Slave Lake took over West Edmonton Mall for the next 2 weeks because we couldn't go back, and just to feel that camaraderie, and everyone knew. And at that point in the next couple of days, you started to hear so and so lost their house, and so got lucky, so and so had the two houses on the other side of their house burned down, and they were just that one person, right? And then you see the people dealing with the guilt of, I was right in the middle, I was in that southeast, everyone around, I was the one house that made it, and now you're feeling with the guilt of that. And just to watch, I think it was I remember very clearly being around with some of my stronger friends who I'd never really seen shed a tear, and you'd be out of bowling just to see them break down, to say, I just want to go home, and I have nothing to go home to. Like, I have no clothes, I have no nothing. I got what I had on the way out, and just to see people, my best friends, I just remember, being, and that, I feel like that I didn't realize how serious you, like I said, you, on the way out of town, I remember feeling like, holy shit, this is serious. But then you get outside of it and you're not seeing it. And then that was when it really hit me of, holy man, we're going to have to go back to, and then once you were back and driving through town and getting to see it all, then it really hit home, and you could never, like you say, it was never the same again. After that first drive back into town, and the smell. And now every time I smell that smell of it's that certain specific forest fire smell. It's not like anything else burning. As soon as I saw it,
Right.
my entire it feels like all the blood rushes to your feet, and you just get that cold sweat
Yeah.
going. I still have that, and I wasn't even in the middle, right? I would, like I said, I was safe and sound the entire time. I can't imagine you guys that were right in the thick of that whole time. And not to jump ahead, but for yourself and for lots of your guys after, how did you guys deal with the recovery of that, of going through such a traumatic event? Was that a lot of you guys bring it together? Did you have to bring in counselors to come help from outside, or was that what was that effort like?
Yeah, they really early they brought in a guy named Roy Langer from the Salvation Army, and he was kind of like a
Yeah.
debrief guy.
Hmm.
And we'd go through multiple debriefs every day. But I mean, I could
Yeah.
tell you, like, I never cried so much, I never hugged so much,
Yeah.
and I never laughed so much. I
Yeah.
mean, you have to find a way through it, right? And so
100%.
you debrief how the day went, or how your shift went. And they I'll tell you, I don't really think I was a hugger per se. But
Yeah.
after the fire, I'm a little
Turns
broken
you into
now.
one.
I'm
Yeah.
still like, this COVID's killing me. I can't get my physical contact in, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was really good. But I can remember sitting with people that were just in despair, and
Oh,
and
awful.
and getting those phone calls and the Facebook messages. And so a few years before that, I think you'll remember that we tried doing that Craft Hockeyville.
Hmm.
And for whatever stupid reason, I used my Facebook to do that. So I had about 4,500 friends from trying to do this Craft Hockeyville
Right. Right.
on this stupid Facebook thing. And then all of a sudden, it just blows up with messages and people. And I mean,
Hmm.
everybody, like, the media is trying to get in through Facebook. People you
Yeah.
grew up with your whole life. What about my house? What about, and
Yeah.
I'm like you, right? Like, Ryan's friends are trying to get a hold of Ryan to find
Yeah.
out, and Sarah's
Yeah.
friends and Kirsten's friends.
Hmm.
And it's just this, you just want to tell everybody what they want to know. But
Exactly, but you don't even know what, you haven't even been able to to drive through it and see that yet, right? Because I imagine when the sun came up in the morning, it was probably so smoky you had no idea. Maybe that's a good question to ask. At what point did it lift enough? Did you guys get a handle on it to do that first full scope where you walk through town and you're sitting there and you can see halfway across the southeast, it's just nothing there. You can got a clear shot out to the highway. I remember that was the craziest thing, standing over by the skate park there and looking out, you can see all the way to the highway and just, holy shit, that
yeah,
is
this
just
is Yeah. I would say that there's always an inversion a bit of in the morning, so the smoke sits close to the ground. That usually lifts around 10 or 11. So sometime around there, I drove through the southeast, and
Oh,
there's the town workers that are trying to shut off water mains, and they're distraught, and everywhere you go, it's just like the saddest faces and the most bewildered faces.
yeah.
You have to remember, like, this never really happened in Alberta before. So,
No,
it happened in Kelowna years before, and you just can't wrap your head around it,
no.
and earlier that morning before I took off for my drive, I was actually stopped at my house, and Kirsten and I were grabbing some clothes, and my phone rang, and I always have like a landline, so it works when cell phones don't, right?
Yeah.
And it's our alarm monitoring company, and they're like, yeah, the alarm's going off at your house in the southeast, and I was like, it's our rental house, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're super funny. Like, what? Of course it's going off, right?
Yeah.
I said, like, the whole southeast is burnt down. Like, there's nothing left. And she says, well, I don't know anything about that, but like, if your house is burnt down, this alarm wouldn't go off. Like, as soon as the wire is burnt off, it stops going
Right.
off. So she said, I would say that your house is there because your alarm's going off.
Yeah.
And it never dawned on us. Like, we just assumed the whole southeast was burnt to
Yeah.
the ground.
And I think that's what a lot of people were thinking at that point.
So we actually, that's what started the whole, well, let's get over there and see what's going on.
Check things out.
And so we drive around, and our house was rental house was on the first block that didn't burn down.
Yeah.
And so we're like, which, in a crazy coincidence, my niece and my sister-in-law's houses both burned down, and they ended up moving into that house, one in the basement and one upstairs.
There you go. Right.
And living there. Right. So it was, just all of these crazy things that were, and, at the fire hall, another thing for all the animal lovers out there, it turned into a bit of a pound.
Yeah.
Like we got these kittens that were, their paws were burnt, and we're trying to take care of them. And we had this big Rottweiler. His name was Moose, and he's running around all over the place, eating everything that's not bolted down. And, and so you have all these firefighters that are blackface and dirty and trying to, deal with all this. You got animals running all over the place, and there's firefighters from all over, the world that have ended up in these fire departments. And, it was just so surreal to be in that, that location at that time. And then to start hearing about, I don't know if you ever heard about the fire truck that burnt down.
I must have at some point, but if you could refresh the story, I'm sure I did hear it, but I'm sure the listeners would love to.
It's Jared Cedar, so another guy, and so they had been out in Mitsu, and it happened around 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And so maybe around 11 o'clock at night, we finally got that all together, and I'm handing out assignments. And so I'm like, you guys take unit 3, and you take unit 4, and you put a tank in a pickup, and Jarrett, you got unit 2. So, you guys just keep going. And he puts his hand up, and I was like, I'll take questions at the end. Like, I'm trying to get through this. Right.
Yeah.
And so I keep going. And then at the end, then Jarrett puts his hand up again. I said, what, man? Like, what don't you understand? He's like, our truck burnt down. And I was like, okay, so then take unit 5 and put a tank in the back and just go and do what I told you. And it never, like, I never even stopped, and everyone's staring at me, and you know me.
Yeah.
People were waiting for the,
don't let it phase you. Yeah.
but also, I tend to blow up here and there. So, so they, and and so he kind of walks out and did what I said, and he comes back and he's like, Jamie, that the truck burnt down, right? Like, you understood what I said?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, but I don't have time for this, Jared. Like, get a pickup, go and do what I said.
Yeah.
Like, it's not your fault. It's all good. I'm glad
we'll deal with it later. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, my phone broke. And I said, you need a phone? Grab my phone. Like, it's all cool, right? And but it's just those chaotic moments where you're not thinking about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Our deputy chief at the time, he was pointing at a map, and he was telling the heavy equipment guys, where we're going to knock down houses and where we're going to knock down trees and make a line.
Yeah.
And he says, if that doesn't work, then you're going to move over here. And on the map, he points at his whole road, and he says, start here and just knock all these houses down, and we'll stop the fire there. But the Glass Case Resort, that's what we're doing.
Right.
And everyone's staring at the guy. I stopped dead.
Yeah.
I'm staring at him, right? And I'm like, and he's kind of looking, and he's like, does everyone understand what I want? And we're like, yeah, it sounds good, bud. High five, right?
Yeah.
And everyone takes off, and outside, all the heavy equipment guys are like, he knows that he pointed at his house, right? And I was like, I don't know, but it's his plan. I let him put it together. So like, let's roll
Yeah.
with it. If we got to do it,
If
we got
that's
to
what it
do it.
comes to. That's what it comes to. Yeah.
And later we were
Holy
talking
man.
about it, and he didn't even. He's just like, yeah, well, whatever. I just was pointing at stuff, and we had to do what we had to do. It didn't really dawn on me that it was my
Yeah.
house, right? My wife was gone, my dogs were gone, and it is
Yeah.
what it is.
At that point, it's what it takes. Holy man. So imagine, yeah. So then, and maybe this is jumping forward a little bit too much, but once everything was come back, what kind of crazy stories of like the burn down? I bet you were hearing just from all your captains and stuff when you're debriefing with them. What were some of the crazier ones you heard of the guys' situations that guys got into that maybe you didn't see, but you heard secondhand from some of your guys?
Yeah, I think some of the good saves where they were just knocking down fences and cutting down
Yeah.
trees. I remember Bill Kinney was involved in some of that on kind of 13th, and
Hmm.
some of the hack guys, right? They got like 100 gallons of water to split between four guys and
Yeah.
40 house fires, and
Holy
so
shit.
that. And then we remember hearing a story where the kids were like looking out the window of this one lady, and they're like, "Fire coming, fire's coming," and the mom just comes and shuts the curtains, and
Holy
and
shit.
that's it, and then like of course like 30 minutes later the neighbors are pounding on the doorway like, we got to get out of here, we got to go.
Yeah.
And you talked earlier about the radio station, and so what a lot of people don't know, and they kind of still blame us for this, but they were broadcasting that we were on evacuation alert, saying that
Yeah.
we had 2 hours, and of
Hmm.
course all this happened in like 45 minutes, but when the
Yep.
radio station burned down, it automatically clicks over to the sister station, and their message just keeps going. So like the
Yeah.
whole town's burned down. 8 hours later, you click on the radio and it's still saying, we're on 2 hour
2 hour
evacuation.
evacuation notice.
And,
Yeah.
people were wild about that, but it was because
Yeah.
the radio station burned down. It's not because they,
Exactly. Yeah, it's not like you're
it's
doing it on purpose and stuff. And that's kind of the stuff that I was
no,
hearing that just and at that time I remember even thinking like you guys have no idea like what's going on. I bet you exactly that. Either it burned down or they've left and they just left the notice on because who's going to be in the radio station running boards and stuff? Everyone's trying to get out. We're the only reason we're out on this tarmac is because we couldn't get out. If there was a way, like if the highway's clear up for a second, we're all stampeding out of here. It's not like anybody of us wants to be here by choice, right? It's just
yeah.
yeah.
So, like the Ford dealership in the middle of town, you can imagine 40 Ford trucks and a bunch of campers
Holy
go up.
shit.
And, like even when we went there the next day, the ones that were in line with the wind were all burned down. But the two next to that only had like $9,000 damage.
Wow.
It was
Well,
so, right?
and that was so weird to come back to town and see the uniformity to some of the part, and then just the randomness that there'd be, a bunch of houses burnt, then one standing out kind of, and then a bunch of houses burnt, or one house burnt down in the middle of all these ones that kind of survived with just, like you say, a bunch of damage from just the heat. But I think anything in the southeast was getting heat damage, even if it wasn't something burning right beside, just because of the temperatures that we're getting. I mean, I can't imagine just how hot it was in there. And when I remember Ingo telling us what we were trying to go to Costco to get supplies for stuff because he was keeping the store open. I think they had all the sandwiches. They were just giving it away to all the firefighters and the cops that would come through, or just all the food because
There's nothing
at
left.
that point it's yeah, exactly. Just there's nothing. There's no stores. There's no restaurants open. Just giving all the food away for free. Pretty much all the bags of chips that we had in the C store. We weren't getting any more loads in, but pretty much just give it all away. I can't even remember where I was going with that. Now it just sounds like I was bragging. I had a point to that, but I lost it.
No, it's like it's everybody trying to figure out what to do when they come back. And it reminds me, and this lady, I'm even going to say her name, Michelle Malbuff.
Oh yeah.
You love her like another mom to you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so what people don't really realize is that all of those fires started the day before, right?
Right.
So that fire 56 started on Saturday. The one that burned down Slave Lake actually started Saturday night, burned through Mitsu Saturday night, and then Sunday is when it burned into town.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
that
wind changed,
right? And so on Saturday, we're busy straight through, and all these people, all these all these friends we have start coming, and they're dropping off crock pots of chili and crock pots of stew, and we're getting pop and water and free pizzas and all this stuff's coming in. And I remember Michelle, she comes in and I always call her like my hockey wife. We were on the hockey board together, and we're always doing everything for hockey together. And they come in the office and they said, "Yeah, your hockey wife's here." And I was like, "Oh, Michelle's here." I had to go running out, and no one really knows the joke except us. And she said she has this whole box, and it's full of Band-Aids and socks and all of this. And to us at that time, it's like, that's weird stuff, right? Like that's kind of crazy. Like, why would you bring that? and it's a cooler. And so Clarence, of course, got us a cooler, ice,
Coors Light in it.
what? No, that's what you
Well,
think.
Clarence is dropping it off, I would guess.
But it had Gatorade and water and all this stuff, and that made sense to us, right?
Yeah.
So, but later on, I could tell you after the fire moved through, right? They lost their house and all of that stuff. So that cooler was one of the last things that they had that they actually owned.
Yeah.
And that box of socks and Band-Aids covered up more blisters and helped more feet and got us through more dark times.
No
so
shit,
those
hey?
little nice things that you talk about.
Yeah.
And that really, so that box of stuff. And so, I often tell that story when I'm talking about this is, how people brought us stuff.
Yeah.
And, another lady, she came and asked us, her house burned down. She said, I'd really like to get my crock pot back. And so we're
No
like,
shit,
I
eh?
don't know, like there's 20 here coming. And she said, I just want it back because it's like the only thing.
Sentimental, yeah.
Like other than the clothes on her back, it's the last thing she has.
Yeah, and it's sad how many people had that same story, right? And it was just, and I know a lot of people. We didn't lose our house, thank God, and we were very lucky in that instance. But also, my parents were both out of town as this was all ramping up, and they were both on Saturday trying to get back into town because they were, I don't know, both gone to something. So me and my sister were loading up the camper and getting everything ready, just out of, we're kids, we didn't really know what it was going to turn into, but just in case, we thought we'd get ahead and prepare. But like I said, with so many people having dealt with this their whole life and having the warnings, and it never actually turns into nothing, so you don't pack up, that so many people didn't get enough time. I mean, nobody got enough time. There's never enough time in that situation, but so many people just got to run in, grab a few things. And that story about Michelle actually brought me back to the point I was trying to make. So yeah, Ingo was stuck and they were running out of stuff in the C store. So a couple weeks in, I think we got special permission for a couple of us to come back and come help out in the C store. So myself and that, and he said, what we need more than anything than food is goddamn Blistex. He said, go to Costco and get everything. Because he said it was so hot there. Everybody it was just baked.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone just looked like they had a sunburn on their lips. He said Blistex was going for about $12 a tube there. So yeah, we loaded up at Costco, all the bags of chips and that stuff, and ended up getting back in. And yeah, that's where I was trying to go. I wasn't just trying to brag about us giving away food. I knew I wasn't trying to end that story on that.
I'd love to know what you two packed in the camper. I'd love to know what the two of you thought was the most important family heirlooms.
Yeah, exactly. But and the worst part of it, Jamie, was my sister was dealing with. We've now since figured out what it was, but at the time we didn't know she has an autoimmune disease. That really affects her back, and it was flaring up really bad. So she could barely walk. So she's just, I can picture it perfectly. Her hobbling out to the RV to load stuff in, and she's just barely being able to walk, and all the stress, and it's very much stress induced. So a stressful situation like that, she could barely move. So I just feel terrible. And she's the older sister at that point. She's 17, 18, I'm 16, right? So you're trying to do everything, be the strong little brother and all that. And I'm scared shitless. But yeah, same thing. We're kind of guessing, like we thought passports are smart, photo albums. We kind of got that stuff. And then you get past that. And then I'm throwing my PS3 in there and those stupid little things, but at that point, yeah, exactly. Lucky underwear, lucky Ginch, couple cases of beer, the priorities, right? You need the essentials. Yeah. But luckily enough, it was nice that both my parents ended up through, we know the back roads, get around and made our way back into town eventually. And then having that, and I just remember as a kid, that relief of, okay, everything's okay. They're there now. I don't have to make decisions anymore. And then, flipping that back onto your side of you probably never had that experience. At no point during that whole thing was it ever it was always up to you, and you never had that relief until, I don't know, 6 days later, and you probably finally have a nap, right? Like, I just can't imagine what you guys were going through.
Same sort of story. I can remember through all of it. At some point, my wife Kirsten says to me, should I go home and should I get, like what you're saying, should I get the photo album, should I get a passport, should we get some clothes, should we? And I just looked at her and I said, like, our house is in the Northeast. It's not on fire right now. And if that catches on fire, every house in this whole town is going to catch on fire. And like nobody else has their passport. I'm sure we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And so we kind of just had that weird look. She goes back to answering the phones and helping out. I go back to work, and it's just like, and we never did run and get anything because nobody else got a chance to. Why would we go get it? Right. Like,
no shit. Hey. Oh, so then, yeah, you had your first drive through town. You got to see the first, your first real looks of kind of what the damage was. I imagine there's probably still fighting fires at that point, or was most of it under control at that point, or were you still fighting more? Or?
No, we fought fires like right through Sunday night. So Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, all day Monday. And then Tuesday morning, I would say about Actually, no, it's Tuesday afternoon, just after lunch.
Wow.
We would always call it the fires of Kuwait. In the afternoon, the wind would pick up and all the fires would pick up, and we'd have to
Yeah.
go crazy. And that day, particularly, I'd switched roles, and I was out helping at the Emergency Operations Center for a few hours. And for whatever reason, the guy in charge decided to send half of the afternoon shift home. They're
Just for
like,
no reason.
yeah. So I get back after lunch, right? I've gone all morning. I get back after lunch, and I'm like, where is everyone? Like, there should be 500 firefighters working, and there's like 250.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, we sent everyone home. And I was like, right now, and I'm talking like this guy's a big shot with Calgary Fire. And I'm like, right now, call everybody, get them out of bed, get them back here. Like, right now. I'm just like livid, right? And so he starts doing that. And of course, because I know the wind's going to pick up. And by 2 o'clock, we're going to be fighting fires. And so they're phoning and freaking out. And I decided to go for a drive and cool down. And I got over into the southeast part of town, and we only have this one radio channel, and we're all sharing it. And this dispatch goes out for there's a house fire, kind of down where Billy Love lives, right down in the deep dark southeast there. And this house catches on fire. So I'm only a few blocks away, so I drive over, and no sooner do I get there than 8 fire trucks and 24 firefighters from like 6 different fire departments show up. They got every different kind of bunker gear, every different kind of air pack, every, different helmets, different everything. And these guys just like in this most coordinated attack that I've ever seen, jump on this house fire. And it was just kind of up the back wall and into the roof a little bit. And in like 15 minutes, this house fire's out.
A house fire's never had its ass kicked so thoroughly ever in the history of the world, hey?
Yeah. And
didn't know what was coming.
Like, yeah, me and Ryan were together in the truck, and I was like, that is how you fight fire, bud. Like, we just crushed this one. So we've been getting killed for days, but
nice to get your shots in, hey? A couple counter punches.
We're back, right?
Yeah.
Like,
that's awesome. I bet you that was a great feeling.
It was, and that was the last house like that actually had a bunch of fire damage. And so after that, we had enough people, and we kept the rates high and got people everywhere. And so then we spent, but then you go into the recovery phase, right?
Weeks,
so
right?
Trying to dig out basements and get all the spot fires out, and trying to get all these vehicle fires out, and so that kind of went on through the week.
Getting gas lines shut off on all those houses that were burned down.
Yeah, and there's all that, like you talked about the propane tanks going and the bullets, and so there's all of these worries, like all this stuff's burnt or half burnt, or what's in there, and during the fire, at one point, someone had called on the radio and said, "There's 100-pound keg of black powder in the house. At this house?" And they give the address. And does anyone know what happens if that catches on fire? And
not good.
It's just crickets, right? Like everybody. Finally, I'm like, it's okay. That's like a block away from me, and that house already burned down. So whatever happened.
Yeah, it's already happened. Yeah, that was one of the bangs we heard on the first night, probably. Holy shit!
And so, as we're digging through all this, we're finding charred propane tanks and trying to figure that out. And so that whole week, we're going through. And so 65, we kind of got a handle on it, but 56, the Widewater fire. It was like fingers. It followed the spruce trees down all through, right? And so there was a lot more mop up, and the ground was so dry, it was burning down into the peat moss 5-6 feet. So we're digging it up,
digging.
And you got all these firefighters. They're not all trained on wildland firefighting, so it's kind of like a training session and a firefighting session, and it kind of cruised through right till that Friday when the helicopter crashed, I guess.
Yeah, and that was the one casualty from the whole thing was that helicopter crash, and that was very very sad moment to make it through with no casualties up until that point. It was kind of a down moment, but it was nice to see the community and everyone appreciated so much and took it so seriously, and everyone felt so much for him, just because we were so thankful for everybody putting their lives on the line for us and for our community like that. You could really feel the love and energy that went out to that family and to that gentleman surrounding that, just because of the circumstances. But it was such a sad moment, but it was beautiful as well to see the reaction and what people felt surrounding it, and just another testament to those small town communities and what you can get out of them. Yeah, no, for sure. And then so weeks of like you say, digging through, making sure you had everything countermeasured, and then when you're starting to allow people back, what kind of I'm sure you guys were busy for weeks on end after that. What kind of roles did you not anticipate that you had to jump into after that as people started to make their way back into town?
Yeah, I think like I can remember like the catering was a big problem where
Right.
everybody sleeps. So we're hot bunking in the hotels, and the hotels
Mm-hmm.
have no power and water, and one guy's sleeping during the day shift and up at night, and the other
Mm-hmm.
guys, so there's a bunch of that. The catering was bad, so at first, of course, you're like you say, we're stopping at the C store trying to grab all the old sandwiches and
Yeah.
chips and stuff. Eventually you got to move and get better, right? So
Yeah.
then they bring in caterers, and I can remember one day, Sarah will hate this, I hope she doesn't watch your podcast, but she's only like 12, 13 years old, and she was
Yeah.
helping the caterers, and they just finished building like hundreds of sandwiches. They had this
Yeah.
long line, and so she comes in and she says, "Hey, I'm going to go upstairs," and she was taking care of this one particular kitten that had some burnt hands or
Yeah.
paws, and she's, "I'm going to go do that." So she goes through and goes upstairs to the fire hall, and about 15 minutes later, she comes from the bay, so she's gone around and she's out in the bay, and she comes in,
Yeah.
she bursts in, and she's in full meltdown, like full almost teenage girl meltdown.
Yeah.
And she's like, "They ate all the sandwiches. They ate all the sandwiches." And I was like, what is going on, right? And so I go outside, and sure enough, like these hundreds and hundreds of sandwiches. What we didn't know is they'd packed them up into coolers and they were taking them all out to the field. So it's not like guys showed up, but
Yeah.
the few guys that are eating sandwiches are all like, they're almost in tears now because Sarah's in tears,
Yeah.
and so the catering part was a big part. It was nice when they got us a kitchen. I remember that I didn't even there's no water, so none of us got to shower.
Right.
And I think it was Wednesday late, like Ken Bolin, he's like Klinger from MASH. He can find you anything.
Yeah.
And so we're like Wednesday morning, we're like, "Ken, you know what we need? We need a shower. Like, figure it out,
Yeah.
bud." Right?
Yeah.
And so
Make it happen.
Yeah. So he does. He gets on the phone, and so it's like between 10 and midnight on Wednesday night, and we go into this little shack they'd set up. That's the shower, and we're all taking turns, right? So finally, I am, like maybe wave 6 or 7, it's my turn. I get to go have a shower.
Yeah.
And so I go inside, and I think I look in the mirror and I'm like, "Man, look at the tan I have. Like, this is crazy. 7 days of firefighting.
Yeah.
Just have this crazy tan." And I jump in the shower and I look down and it's just black. Like
Yeah.
the mud's oozing off me, right?
It's coming out of your pores.
Yeah, and I feel like, man, this one ear is like super sore. And there's a blister the size of a quarter in between my head and my ear, right? But it was so packed with mud that I didn't feel it.
You had no idea, yeah.
And so you get out, you shower for your 10 minutes or whatever you're allowed, and you get out and you're like, wow, that's gross, right? And everyone's wiping down with these towels. So even after showering and washing your hair and shampooing and I remember Kirsten coming in and we're looking at these towels, and I go like, "What do we do with these towels?" And they're
throw them out pretty much.
Yeah, she's literally like throwing the garbage. Like, they sent us stacks of towels. Like, those are gross. And so
nobody's reusing those things.
All these little things. And then we'd ordered a new pickup truck for the fire department. And so Doug Babby phones me up, and it's maybe like Thursday after the fire, and he says, "Hey, you want that pickup truck that you guys ordered?" And I'm like, "Oh, you're hilarious, Doug. Like, why don't you shove it, bud?" Right?
Yeah.
And I knew like his house had burned down, and so I said, like, he's in a pretty good mood for a guy that lost everything. And he's like, "No, man, like your truck is okay." And I was like, "Doug, I drove by your lot. Like,
yeah,
I remember where our truck was parked. Like, it's burnt to the ground." And he's like, "No, do you remember the phone call that we had on Friday?" And I said, "No, I don't." And he said, you asked me if you could pick up the truck Friday. We couldn't have it already. So I said, "Okay, Monday morning, first thing." And so I got the wash guy to grab your truck, put it in the wash bay, wash it all up, finish everything.
Get it all nice and shiny for Monday.
So
holy shit.
All of our all those trucks burned down, but ours was safe inside the bay. So
nice.
So he said, "I'm back in town. Come down and I'll give you your truck, and we'll finish up the paperwork whenever we can do that again." Right?
Yeah.
And so so we went in. Now we got our truck and all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Another good one. You'll like this. Hopefully, too many cops don't watch your podcast, but
no, none.
So Ryan's driving around. So he's 15, right? He's a year younger than you.
Yeah.
He's driving around all over town and helping us out with stuff. And so this cop pulls up and he's like, "Oh man, I forgot my camera at the detachment. And I gotta, what am I gonna do?" And Ryan's like, "Well, flip me your keys, bud. I'll rip over there and get it for you." And so they, there's Ryan, takes off out of the parking lot, no driver's license. And he's driving this cop car down Caribou, goes over, gets this guy's camera and brings it back. And the guy's like, "Oh, that's awesome, thanks, bud." And Ryan's like, "Yeah, that's cool. I never drove a cop car." And he's like, "Yeah, most people haven't." And he's like, "Yeah, I don't even have a driver's license." And the guy's like,
And
he's
that kind
like,
of chaos, who gives a fuck?
yeah. He's
Yeah.
like, whatever, right? Is it? And
Yeah.
so it was really hard because Ryan's birthday uh, was wasn't until the next April,
Right.
and he just turned 15, right?
And now he's just
And
got all
so
this
yeah, so
experience.
for 2 weeks he's been driving all over every kind of truck,
Yeah.
and then we're like, "Hey Ryan, everyone's coming back to town. Like you got to stop driving around. Like you don't have a
Yeah.
driver's license." And he's like, "Oh no, it's okay." It's like, no, it's not
Yeah.
okay, right? Like you
I'm
have to.
grandfathered in. I'm grandfathered in.
You could hear him, right? You
Yeah,
know what
no, I
he's
know
saying.
exactly what he'd say. Yeah. Oh, that's
and
hilarious.
and so, but it was fun. Like when everyone came back in, we're still busy, but we took some time off and we set up that big ladder truck we have with that huge
Yeah.
Canadian flag.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that was really beautiful that when driving back into town, seeing that was the nice first thing to see when you know what you're about to see that first. That was kind of a,
yeah,
just for me personally, I remember thinking that it was kind of a nice brings you together before, that first look at the damage and stuff, because that was emotional coming back into town
oh
seeing that. Holy fuck.
yeah, and we're taking shifts. Like we can't all stop, but we'd go out there like 5 at a time, and everybody's honking and waving,
Yeah.
and head out the window. We love you guys, and thanks.
Yeah.
And like if you can't feel good about yourself in that moment,
You
there's
never will.
something wrong
Yeah.
with you, right? Yeah, for
Holy
sure.
shit. Yeah, no. And I imagine that was yeah, and then dealing with that second wave, you have all these people that you've like you say, all these good friends of yours that that just lost everything. They go through that the first couple of nights, because like you say, the next I remember the next morning waking up at the hotel in Westlock, and pretty much everyone there is all from Slave Lake, so everyone's in the lobby, and we're trying to watch the news, and everyone's squeaking around talking, oh, is that this house? Because you get some shots that were
Right.
far away, and
Yeah.
we're all trying to parse out and who had heard from who, and who had because everyone who had anybody back in town was doing that. I knew my dad was back there, but he didn't know. He was just working, pretty much
Yeah.
on our side of town there. He didn't know much about it. But then, yeah, at a certain point, it was pretty much everybody just trying to get that knowledge out. And it was tough. You could see people get the news that they lost their house just visually from like the reactions. You just see people breaking down all over the place too for the next couple days, wherever you were. And it's just so hard. And then to imagine them having to go through that all again when they come back is just such a
Yeah.
powerful thing to go through at a young age, to watch
We didn't
these.
get to see that, right? So that's
Yeah.
that's the side that I think we're happy that we missed.
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
the time they got back to town, I think everybody that lost a house knew that they'd lost it, and
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
upset. And it's hard to watch them stand, at their foundation and look in. But yeah, I don't envy you having to see that as a 16-year-old kid.
No, I know. Well, I think worse was what was seeing it on the way out. I think for me, just trying to go back, and like I was this week trying to in preparation for this, trying to go back. I think the biggest thing was driving out on Highway 2 and seeing all those houses on fire. And I think the biggest one I was looking, because it was right where the Millers live, right? And that was Clinton and the Millers, Lynn and my best friends, and just as we pulled out of town, we just got outside, just about maybe by the mill there, just where it kind of cleared up and we could see, and we had pulled over on the side, and the Millers pulled it. We just got in contact with them. Maybe we saw them on the road and pulled in up there, and they had their camper, and I remember pulling out, and they were quite certain that their house was gone, just from what they said. It was a miracle that it wasn't. But I just remember, hugging Clinton and crying, and that, because at that point we were under the understanding they had lost everything. And it's amazing that they didn't, but just to have to go through that. And then for them to, everybody's on that roller coaster. There was probably families that went through 3 ups and downs. You hear that your house made it and you're happy, and then you hear it sad and you're crying, and then someone else tells you that it didn't. And just that uncertainty, that roller coaster that so many people are riding, and then you're riding for yourself, but you care so much. Like you said, that the flip side of the coin of that, the niceness of everyone being so close, you're also emotionally tied to everybody. So now the downs are your downs, right? You're good friends, the Malbuffs, the Millers, the Keavneys, and you're just watching all these and these really strong community members, right? Like you watch these people that you have your family and your immediate family, but then you have, like you said, your second families and your hockey families, and all these people that are these strong pillars of your life, and you're watching them crumble and cry, and you're 16 and you're trying to be strong for everyone else. It was definitely an emotional time. And I think at that point, you're a 16-year-old kid. You're not thinking about how you're gonna deal with this stuff, and you just kind of buck through it and look back. But now to look back on it and all the effects that it's had, it's quite quite special. I knew it was something I would have to talk about on this podcast. I'm really glad that you said yes, because I don't think I could have a better person to kind of go through that would understand it to the degree that you would too. But yeah, no, it was quite the experience to watch, and I just felt so bad for all those people. Right, I'm a pretty empathetic guy. I'm a big softie at heart, so I was just
You are.
feeling for all my friends, and giving everyone hugs and that kind of thing, and just trying to be there for them any way you can. Right, and it's just as a 16-year-old kid, it's you feel so helpless because what can you want to help and you want it, but no, I mean, you're going through the lens of a 16-year-old kid, but it doesn't matter if I was 50 years old and a billionaire. There's nothing you can do for them at that point, right? It's the emotional ties, and that was the big thing, right? Talking to my friends and just the things that they would say, because I would just try and be there to talk to them, and just they'd say, it would just be something small, like I just want my hockey stick, or that's a bad example, but it's just those little things that it's just mine, and I know I can buy new ones, but I just want it, and just to be able to go home, just that thought of yeah, I remember one of my good buddies. You coach him too, and you'll know him quite well. I don't want to out him on the podcast, but yeah, I remember being at that Ed's bowling lane in West Ed Mall, and it was kind of a party up until that point, because it was emotional, but then it was fun because we're all around West Ed and we're all having a good time, right? And you understand the gravity of the situation, but at the same time, you're 16 years old, and if you can take half your all your hometown, all your buddies go into the movie theater in West Ed, and you fill it up. Everyone grabs a Mickey of rum, and we all go watch The Hangover. It just come out. So this entire theater of all Slave Lake people in West Ed Mall in the middle of one of the nights, and that kind of thing. So you're having fun, but then to go, and then we went bowling right after, and just we're all having fun, and then all of us out of nowhere, one of my strongest buddies that lost his weight just starts crying, and to see that, it all becomes real again. I feel like that was that moment that I like, holy shit, this is this isn't fun. It's not fun in games. This is real, and we're gonna have to go back to that. And then, of course, once you get back to town, you see the devastation, and it just really hammers home what we just went through as a community too. But then over time, you get that flip side of just seeing all the beautiful stories that come out after people, volunteering, giving, like rental houses, and everyone coming to, I got a place for you to stay, and we'll get you set up and whatever you need. And I got this, here's extra blankets, here's extra clothes. We got my son just is pretty much same size as yours, and here's all these extras, right? It was beautiful for every dark moment like that, it was almost equal light coming in to pick you up. And it was like you say, it's a roller coaster, but you go through and you learn a lot, and you come out of that along the other side. I don't think anybody that went through that was part of that Slave Lake community came out of that on the other side the same person they went in, to differing degrees for everybody. Someone like yourself definitely is going to be very much changed. Someone that lost their house can be very much changed. But even someone like myself that, I didn't lose my house. I was very lucky throughout the whole thing, right? I got out, I was safe, my entire family was safe, but you still don't come out of it the same way when you go through something that emotional, and that scarring, right? Because that is a traumatic thing to deal with. Did one thing I was curious to ask you, I'm assuming going into that, maybe, if you asked you a week before the fire what you thought went into to a good fire chief and a good firefighter, maybe just in general, you probably had a pretty big idea. And then after, I wonder how that changed. What did you see from your time in that fire and dealing with that is more important, or was it just magnifying the things you already knew were important just to another level? Was there anything specific that you thought, oh man, I never would have thought I would need that kind of skill or
I
mindset?
I people often ask me, and I'll tell you that I would not trade my time there for anything else on earth.
Yeah.
It was the scariest, hardest, most emotional, craziest times
Mm-hmm.
of my entire life. But I mean, it changes you to your core,
Of
who
course.
you are,
Yeah.
and who you want to be. And
Yeah.
like I say, I never laughed more, cried more, hugged
Mm-hmm.
more, and and I think I'm still like that. But it also um, emotionally changed the way you are, right?
Yeah.
So it's I always thought that it was a bit of a gift that I had a black heart and that I could
Yeah.
just get through things. And right
Mm-hmm.
after that, I often, and I still to this day often wonder if it's as much of a gift as it is a burden
Yeah.
to be that kind of a person. But I think at the end of the day, integrity, right, doing the right thing
Mm-hmm.
when no one's watching, that
Yeah.
that's that was huge. And everybody that stayed, it doesn't matter if it was your dad or me or somebody that was just couldn't get out. Doesn't matter who it
Mm-hmm.
was. I think everyone was doing the right thing, the thing that they
Yeah.
thought was the right thing at the right time, right? And so I love that I saw that and that people were doing that.
Yeah.
Um, leadership, I think I always took it for granted. I think when you're a little kid, people just say, "Oh, you're bossy,"
Yeah.
and I definitely was a bossy little kid.
Me
Um,
too.
later on, that turns into some leadership skills that you can
Yeah.
use. For you, you were
Yeah.
wore a letter in hockey more often than not. You're a boss in the job you have
Yeah.
now, and
Yeah.
you're doing this kind of stuff, and so you turn in from a bossy little kid maybe to what you hope's a good leader. And
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
I think that I always took it for granted that people listened to me and trusted me, and I can
Hmm.
tell you I don't take that for granted anymore. So
Yeah.
it's I feel that that's a huge responsibility that people are going to listen to me and follow me, and I
Hmm.
take that more seriously now than I ever have in my life. So
Yeah, and I think that's an amazing thing to go through, and I think what I hear in that story too is as much as it was an awful experience to go, well, awful and great in all its different ways, but just powerful, I guess would be maybe a best way to say it. But to hear you say, even going forward after the fact, that you're still more of a, you're hugging more, you're letting your emotions show more, going through something like that. Sometimes that's what it takes to break you. You get set in your ways. Growing up, and you kind of get into that once you're 30, 40 years old, you don't change much. It takes a lot to change, and sometimes that's what it takes. And if you can use it to change for the good and stuff, and really enjoy what you got out of that too, I think it can be a great experience if you use it in the right way and you learn the right lessons from it, right? And it sounds like you are taking the as best as you can the positives out of it and bringing them through to your life. And I would just imagine, maybe this is a question I can ask you, but I imagine if that was me, if I could get through something like that, it'd be a, everything else in life after that, has a little less sting to it. I got through the Slave Lake Fire 2011 in a pretty senior position. Holy fuck. What is the next couple steps going to be? And I think that'd be something strong to carry with you too, just to know that you have it within you. If ever you were called on, you could go that extra mile, and you have it within yourself. It's
yeah,
quite
I
the
think
thing.
it worked out for Fort McMurray. We did a lot of good work up
Right.
there, and we did a lot of
Right.
crazy stuff. BC and high level and all
Yeah.
these places, right? But there's you'll never do it anywhere like at your own home,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And so,
Exactly.
I guess I have two distinctions. One, you could say I'm the fire chief that helped save 65% of Slave Lake,
Yeah.
but you could also say I'm the fire chief that was in charge when 35% of it burned down, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's hard to live on both sides of that. And
Yeah.
so, I like to think I'm a lot more humble now than I used to be, maybe.
Yeah.
Definitely that, humbles you up. And it's, I'm a lot more intense now.
Yeah.
When things are going wrong, we have a saying and we always say, well, what could go wrong? And it's just a firefighter thing that you say, and you're
Yeah.
always thinking of the worst case scenario. You can just imagine how the worst case scenario plays out in my mind versus most.
Yeah.
So, I think that that intense level that I got to operate at all the time takes a toll, but I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah, exactly. And what's just the flip side of that coin is just having the good support system, so you can operate at that intensity level, and come home and have the people to take care of you and make sure that they reset you for the next day, so you can keep doing that, right? Because if you keep burning the candle at both ends like that without a good support system, you can't do it for very long, right? So that just shows the importance. And mentioning Fort Mac there, I just kind of wanted to ask you. So I remember after the Slave Lake fires, hearing it was a big kind of hot button thing that people were saying is, okay, we've learned this. This will never happen again. We are going to put everything in place so that every rural community around Alberta is protected. We're going to cut down all this brush. And then to see, I guess maybe starting, what lessons did we learn there? And then what lessons helped for Fort Mac, and what did we maybe not learn well enough in the Slave Lake fire that we had to relearn with the Fort Mac one?
Okay, get your pencil out, buddy. I'm going to throw some
I
gems at you.
got her. I got her. I got you.
There's two things in life. You talk about lessons learned, right? And
Yeah.
so, to learn a lesson, there has to be an actual change in behavior.
Yes.
So if you don't, it's a lesson observed. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think as people, we're really good at lessons observed.
Yeah.
So we see it, we say it out loud. We're really going to change that. We're going to do better, and then we don't,
No.
right? And
Very
and
easy to do
so
that.
and so one of my I'll take it back to hockey. Two hands on
Mm-hmm.
your stick.
Oh, that's
As
so
a
funny you
hockey
picked
coach,
that one. I
yeah,
heard that so many times growing up. I think I have a PTSD from hearing Ingo yell at two hands on your stick. I was the worst for that. God,
right
that's
on.
funny.
So you come on the bench and
Yeah.
I coached you as an adult, so we didn't have this problem. But you'd come and your dad would tell you that, and you'd do, yeah, yeah, yeah. I can actually picture your face as
Yeah.
a younger guy, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you go back out there, and what do you do? So
Yeah. One
that's
hand.
lesson observed, right?
Yeah.
Later on, you get older, you're playing for me, and you have two hands on your stick all the time because you have to be ready and all the
Yeah.
difference it makes. So it turns into a lesson learned. You
Yeah.
couldn't learn it because your dad told you to. You had to learn it the hard way, which most of us
Mm-hmm.
do, by
Yeah.
knowing you're not ready, right?
Yeah.
So it's really I think that a lot of the lessons sadly they were observed but not learned.
Right.
And then you have people hear me say this all the time, and I like to put this out there, especially to people like you, like other leaders, so
Mm-hmm.
almost every problem in the world you can drill down to four things: ego, turf, time, and money. So pick any problem you have in the world, in your world, and just think about where it fits into one of those categories,
Yeah.
right? And so definitely in the events that I go to and in the world I live in, we have
Mm-hmm.
that continuous problem. Like, they're high ego people that do this job, right? And
Yep.
we have those turf wars. This is my city, that's my town, this is my road, that's right. And then time, right? Did we get there in time? Do we have enough
Mm-hmm.
time? Do we, and then money? Everything's about a buck, right? And so
Mm-hmm. For
you're a
sure.
business guy, you understand that. And so we go to these things, and you had said at one point, it wouldn't matter if I was 50 years old and had $1 billion at that time and place. There's not enough money. I
Yeah.
can't, nothing I can do to help. And that's right, and it's true. And so you take those four impacts and you apply them against things. Sometimes it stays a lesson observed because we can't afford it, or we
Right.
can't change someone's mind, or we can't do something different. Other times,
Can't talk our ego down enough for the lesson to land. That's probably the biggest one for myself. I know that's the biggest one, and I have to talk my ego down for that lesson to actually enter. Or else you're very correct. It's just a lesson observed.
and so I often say, like, just take a minute when you're in an argument, when you're in a fight, and take those few breaths,
Mm-hmm.
and think about ego, turf, time, and money. It's super simple, four words. And what are you actually fighting about?
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
it'll drill down into one of those four things,
For
and then
sure.
just decide, what is that fight worth it? And so
Mm-hmm.
in Fort McMurray, I think that we got there a little late, and there was so many things that maybe got done not the way that I would do it, but there's so
Mm-hmm.
many things that got done well, right?
Yeah.
And we got everybody out, and we saved 90% of the town. And
Mm-hmm.
so for anyone looking to hire me for structural protection work, I'm getting better.
There you go. Hey, there you go. Yeah, my percentages are great. Next one, 95. Oh, that's funny.
And so I hope that answers your question. I know it was always the longest, you're used to
Yeah,
that.
no, that's perfect, and that kind of leads me into another question that I hadn't thought about. But do you think in maybe this is different from the time you were trained when you were learning to become a firefighter? But is ego talked about in that training? Because I think that is a big part of that. I think in life there needs to be more talk about ego, and people have to have more of a better understanding of that and how it can get in your way. But I think especially in a situation maybe like RCMP or firefighting where your ego can be the difference between lives, is that addressed in the training? And if not, do you think it should be?
But I think it is, but I mean, it's just like anything. One of the hardest things to do is take a lesson from somebody, and the whole time you're talking, you think, "Wow, that guy's
Yeah.
like the biggest ego guy in the entire world," right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we both know a certain gym teacher that taught me how to be a firefighter, and
There you go.
for that guy to give me a lecture about big egos would be a wasted effort, because the whole
Fair
time I'd
enough.
be like, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that you have to pick your time and place for those
Right.
kinds of things, right?
Mm-hmm. And maybe it's more so in the training and leading by example and having strong leadership on the team to show that that they can check their ego at the door, and lessons like that. Just like you said, when that fire chief from down in Calgary came in and kind of threw his dick down on the table, and you had the choice of going one or two ways, right? When you can show that to your crew, that you can put your own ego aside, and that should, now as they see that, they'll grow into it. So hopefully when they're in that situation and they're the chief, they can do that themselves. So maybe it's less so in the training, more so in the leadership.
Yeah, I find, like, one of my roles now, at the structure protection stuff, I'm often one of the leaders.
Right.
And almost every time we have to have these big talks where everyone, when the troops get restless and get
Yeah.
bored, idle hands and all those things.
Yeah.
And I'm always that guy that has to stand at the front of the room and say, like, I hope you're bored. I hope
Yeah.
you're
That means,
boring, that because there's thousands of people that are in hotels and at their friends and families' places that they can't wait for you to be so bored that they can come back and get into their houses.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to flip the script on that, right? Because
Yeah.
we are like, we're type A, hard charging, those crazy ego personalities that
Yeah.
get through this stuff. But you have to also remember that we want it to end. We want the
Yeah.
people to come back. We want everyone to be safe. We don't want the houses to burn down.
No.
And so, you got to talk about that all the time, and say to people like, I can't wait to get out of here. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's chaos and we're doing all this work, but I can't wait to go home to my family and to my town and be out of here, because that means that everyone gets to come home and be part of that. And
Mm-hmm.
even at the Slave Fire, like most morning meetings, we would start with that, right? Like the whole mission today is to get this done so everybody can get home, whether
Yeah.
they have a home to go to or not. This Slave Lake is still their home. They still want to
Yeah.
get back. Slave Lake, Whitewater, Canyon Creek, Mitsu, they want to get back here, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
that's the push forward, the drive, the marker that you're trying to get to.
Mm-hmm. So I guess you were heavily involved in the Fort Mac fire, maybe not as the I don't know who had command there or whatever you would call it, but from what you can see from the level you were involved in there, what was the biggest difference? I know every fire is like a woman, right? You're never gonna have two of the same, you know what I'm saying? They all have their personalities. You could even say, what was different between the Slave Lake fire to the Fort Mac fire, and maybe just in the circumstances surrounding it, or the fire itself, or the conditions? What was the biggest difference that you saw?
I think it started the same way. Everyone thought that they were going to get it, and then they didn't. So
Yeah,
that's a similarity that bugs me to this day.
yeah,
We got there and started right away saying it's not going to be the same, but those are some of those lessons you got to learn the hard way, right?
yeah,
I loved seeing that human nature part in the evacuation. So you remember
yeah.
our evacuation. So that one was 90,000 people.
Holy shit,
Right? And there was the one
that's wild.
giving us the finger and spitting on our truck, but there was also the 99% that was just like, give them hell, go at it, you guys. Thanks for
Yeah,
being here, and so that part was good, and that they called us is a lesson learned.
yeah,
That they called us late is a lesson observed, and
of
and it
course.
falls right into the whole money and time and all of
Mm-hmm.
that stuff, right?
Ego, I'm sure.
Ego, turf,
Turf, yeah,
all
it's
those
all
things,
four.
right?
Yeah, it's the
But
vortex.
but while we were up there, everybody listened to us, right? It
Yeah.
was like, well, that's crazy. We can't do that. Well, who said it? The Slave Lake guy said it. Oh, okay, then do it.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
It's got to be those guys went through it. It's got to be the right thing, right? So,
yeah, and you guys have thought about it for years and years after. I'm sure you've torn it over in your mind. I'm sure that's something that you guys probably all struggle with, of what could we have done, even though you were doing the best you could at that time. Just human nature to think back on what could you done. And maybe that's a question I could get before we get further into Fort Mac. Was that anything that you struggled with personally after the fact, trying to think back on things you could have done differently, or were you pretty understood and that you had done your best and you were pretty set with it?
for Slave Lake or for Fort Mac?
Yeah, more for Slave Lake, I guess.
Yeah, for Slave Lake, I really feel like, we didn't cause it. We did the best
Mm-hmm.
we could. We had no
Yeah,
idea. Like nobody had any
nobody
idea
did.
what
Yeah,
was
it
coming.
happened so fast.
Nobody had a forest fire hit their town at 127 kilometers an hour.
No.
So um, I'm proud of the work we did. I'm proud that
Yeah.
nobody died until the helicopter guy died, Jean-Luc Dubois. But I'm proud of the way that we kept it going. Like we lost
Yeah.
50% of the firefighters, but the ones that stayed, we kept it going. Even with all of the negative things that happened, we kept it going and kept it rolling.
Yeah.
And so I'm proud of all that stuff. And I
Yeah.
think there's not one thing where I actually look back and say, man, we really could have done so much better there.
Oh, that's beautiful.
We did the best we could do with what we had, and just keep rolling.
Yeah, that makes me happy. That was the answer I was hoping to hear. But I think I wouldn't blame you if you did. I know that's a lot of human nature for people just to what ifs and what could I have done. Just a lot. There's usually, in a traumatic situation like that, there's a lot of guilt that goes on. It's pretty common to see that. But I'm glad to hear that you don't, because I think you should be proud. I mean, I think the whole town was very proud of those were our firefighters. You guys were just as much as that's your town, you guys are our firefighters. We believe in you. We trust you guys to protect us and do the best for us. So I mean, I was very proud of the job that we did, and that you guys were there to run back into it. Like I said, I was running the Westlock. You guys were running back into the danger there, and that's awesome. So Yeah, the Fort Mac one. So how long were you up in Fort Mac helping them out with that?
9 days.
9 days.
I put in 9 days, and then we left. No more houses burned down after we left, so we kind of left. I guess you'd say after the excitement.
Yeah, yeah. And then it was
But
a lot of the same that we were doing, is a lot of, digging up, making sure you get all the hot spots. And that was,
exactly,
so
yeah,
once it got to that point, you guys left at that point.
yeah. We felt like
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I would say once we got to the point where the egos kicked back in, right? Like everybody
Yeah,
got kicked in the
exactly. Yeah.
teeth, but once the egos and all the turf warriors got back, we kind of just said, okay, that's enough. Like if you don't want
Yeah.
to listen to us, then learn the hard way. See you around.
100%. Yeah. No, I can imagine. And I imagine that'd be pretty tough to have gone through that too, and not to have, if, like you said, a lot of the situations they did take your guys' word as bond, and jump to it. But I can imagine in the situations where ego gets in the way of that, where somebody hadn't ever been through this and you guys had, it'd be tough not to have them jump right to it. Oh man, that'd be
Yeah,
fun. That would
but
be fun.
at the end of the day, I learned from a guy, Dr. David Griffin, who went through some pretty traumatic stuff, and he said you got to remember that you don't know what you don't know,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And his whole presentation and everything he does is all about trying to you need to find out what you don't know so you can get better, right?
Yeah.
And so I think I don't blame those people. I'm not mad
No.
at the people, and I don't fight with them and talk bad about them. It just they didn't know what they didn't know, and so
Only
we're
one way
kind
to
of like,
learn it.
yeah, and we'd already been through it. So if you don't want to learn from us, like we're going to bail out, because going through it once is bad. Going through it twice is evil, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just straight evil.
100%.
So good to just get home and hug our families instead.
Yeah, exactly. Um, what do you feel every year on May 15th? Is that a big day for you every year? That every year the anniversary of it, or is now kind of just another day on the calendar? Do you have a special routine you go through to remember that day, or I guess that period of time for yourself? I know you're not the most sentimental guy on that kind of stuff.
I'm a forward guy.
Yeah, yeah,
It's we've been there together when we lose double digits to single, and
yeah,
get our butts kicked, and we just move on to the next game. It's not,
100%.
and so I think my whole life, you could just say, is like that. I'm just
Reset, reload.
let's train for the next game. Forget the last game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Whether we win or whether we lose, we got to get ready for the next one. So
Yeah, and that transitioned me right into the next thing. So you were a fire chief for a long, you're a firefighter and then a fire chief for a long time, and now you've kind of gone into what were you calling it earlier?
protection.
Structural protection.
Yeah.
How are you enjoying that? Is that just as rewarding as a job? Is it rewarding in different ways? Is it satisfying to be able to use that wealth of knowledge you accumulated over the years and actually get to put it to use in more of a less localized manner? How are you liking that?
Yeah, it's good. I think that if they were taking bets in Vegas, and someone said that someone was going to pay me for my brain one day,
Yeah,
that would have been a good,
yeah,
bet to take, right? But
yeah. Plus 900.
I'm mostly a hands-on guy, so it's been a really great experience. And
Mhm.
and so the nice thing about being a consultant and being in the role I have now is that the only people that call me are the people that want to listen to me.
That is nice. That's a nice change after years of
Right?
having to
Yeah.
fight to be listened to. Yeah, no, that's
Right.
awesome. I
So,
can imagine.
I don't have to convince anybody that I know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
I know very few things in this world, but one of them that I happen to know pretty well, people call me and ask me for advice on. And so it's fun to wake up every day and be talking about something I'm so passionate about.
Oh, that's awesome.
And luckily know something about finally. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't mind that. It's been good. I work for good company, and we work with lots of great people. So.
yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So maybe is there anything we kind of did the full walk through the Slave Lake fire? Was there any big pieces of that you think we missed, or anything we would want to go back over on that?
No, one story I often tell, and
Yeah.
Ryan will tell this differently if he watches this podcast, but
All right. I'll ask him after.
it was the start of the fire that actually burned down Slave Lake,
Right.
and so most of the guys were out in Widewater, Canyon Creek, Glory Land, and they were doing structure protection work and trying to, that Fire 56 was going to come in.
Hmm.
And so Ryan and I are sitting in the fire hall, and he comes in, 15, and he goes, "You and I are the last firefighters left in the place." And I kind of laugh because I'm thinking, well, I am maybe.
One and a half, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he's in the junior firefighter program, and I said,
Yeah.
"Well, get your gear ready and get it by the truck. There's only one truck left, so we, if." And so we the fire the doors are open on the fire hall, and we were waiting for
Hmm.
some pizza to show up, and all of a sudden we see this big plume of smoke out by the mills, and the pagers light up and the radio lights up, and everybody's in. We're like, "Wow, this is a fire!" And so we get this dispatch, and Ryan comes running over to me, and it's literally like me and Ryan. We're the last two
Yeah.
guys, and so we jump in this old Pumper 3 we had, and I'm driving, and Ryan's in his gear beside me, and I normally wouldn't take him, but what are you gonna do? Like, we have
Yeah.
people, right?
At that point.
And so the whole time we're cruising out there, and I'm doing, like, safety Sam talk there, right? Just blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And we get out there, and this truck's a little bit different how you put it into gear, and so Ryan's screaming at me for water. Got the big W up, water, 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 and so I give him water right away. His story may alter there,
Yeah.
and we're spraying water and we're trying to figure it out. And it's funny because then later on, we're getting interviewed by whoever, maybe Reader's Digest or something, and he's talking about the exact same experience, and he's like, "Yeah, we had Charlie Brown's teacher talking over here, wah, wah, wah,
Yeah.
wah." And we get there, and he can't get the truck running. I got no water, and
Some cheap, hey?
yeah, and it was funny that my 15-year-old just lighting me up, eh?
Oh man. Never
And
ends, never
so
ends.
it
That hasn't ended since then, I don't think. The way you'd hear him talk.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
no,
that's
true,
awesome.
true story, right? So,
Yeah.
but it's funny because you and Ingo got the same stories, and
Oh,
you
of
know,
course, yeah.
Travis and Clarence got the same stories, and so
Oh yeah.
it's fun to think back on some of those things, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, we were there, probably 20 minutes after it started, and all that it turned into, crazy stuff.
Yeah. And with the investigation, was it ever determined what started both those? I know you said that fire 56 and 65, I think you said. Do we know what started those two fires or have a basic idea of it after the investigation?
Yeah, I think 56, the one that burned down in Widewater, was some people fell in a creek or something, and they started a fire, and then that fire
Oh
a
yeah.
couple of days later actually
The
started.
embers of it relit.
Yeah, and then the other one was deemed to be arson only because it couldn't have been anything else, but they never
Mm,
found out who lit it, or
right.
what happened. I mean, they know where it happened, they kind of know what happened, but never did find out,
Wow.
exactly who did it.
Holy shit, that is and
That's
that's quite
crazy,
the hit.
right?
Yeah, and I remember thinking that I didn't know what that all entails or what that could be. Like you say, it just means that
Yeah.
it couldn't be anything else. But I remember hearing that a couple weeks later. Once I think we were all moved back into town just for that. That's like a whole nother wave for the whole community to deal with. That of all this destruction that somebody did, and then like you say, all these emotions that pop, the anger and the sadness and all the other stuff that just re swells up within you, right? And you go through all those waves of it again, and it's just yeah, a tough time. I remember hearing that. It's
What a
tough for
waste. What a
yeah,
waste,
what a
right? Like,
waste. What a
just
waste.
crazy, crazy waste.
Oh, just all that hurt and pain that people went through for that could have been
For
prevented, really. But I mean, if nothing else, on the other fire too, just if nothing else, soak and stir your pits, right? When you're done with your fire, if you do fall in the river and you need to stay warm and need to light a fire, that's one thing. But goddamn, soak that bitch after,
Fair enough.
stir it up and soak it
Yeah.
again.
How
God,
many
I've been
times, you see it flare up after, even just in a fire pit, right? The next day
hundred
you throw a
percent.
log on and it goes. You're like, oh wow,
Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
stuff.
And you think, I mean, growing up in Slave Lake my whole life, that was drilled into me from a young age. You soak your fire, you stir it, you soak it again, right? That was always. But imagine how many people that message doesn't resonate that many times with, right? If you're not growing up in a rural community like that, you're never gonna get it.
I'll tell you, buddy, I love it. You're what, 26 years old, and you
Yeah,
remember that? Like, you just quoted that back like you were
yeah,
teaching the
of
class, right?
course,
I
of
love
course, fire
that.
safety. Oh, that's what I was all about. I was the number one prospect there. Oh man, that's funny. That's funny. So yeah, no, I think we got the whole fire thing. So maybe before we wrap up, I just want to ask you: so how excited are you for hockey to start back up? But like you'd mentioned, you got to coach me for a year as an adult. And that was a fun year we did before I moved out to Grand Prairie. But I know you're probably missing hockey just as much as I am at this point.
Oh, I'm going crazy. Like, I love the Oilers. Everything
Oh,
about
me too.
all that stuff. And
Yeah,
so having no hockey at first, I don't think it bugged me because it
yeah,
just took time, right? But for these last couple months, as they've been talking about it, we might not, and it's just like, bring it back,
yeah.
bring back anything, bring back minor hockey, bring back
100%.
anything.
Anything.
I'll watch anything. Like, I don't
Yeah.
care, right? And even to watch some of the start of baseball, and
Hmm.
all of this stuff. Like, just get us some sports. And I know people
Exactly.
get all fired up that these guys make millions of dollars, and it's entertainment, right? Actors and actresses make millions of dollars, and we don't get mad at them. These guys are just that, right? I mean, honestly, and so let us have our sports.
Yeah,
Let
no
us
shit.
watch, right?
I'm just itching. My hands are shaking. I'm just getting excited. Oh, August 1st. I can't wait. Even the exhibition games I can't wait for. And I know every time I'd hear people bitch about the format and that stuff, I just looked at them like they're crazy. Like, are you kidding me? You're bitching about format right now? They could play freaking 19 game series for all I care. You know, you can make them what wackiest clown rules that you wanted to show out there, right? Make it a regardless 2-goal leads, a shootout, or whatever rules you want to put around this. I don't care. Just give me some goddamn hockey. That's all I want. I'm just been.
I'm with you. Yeah. I might need to take holidays. You know, watch 3 games a day or whatever. I don't care.
Well, that's the thing with this podcast. I've been trying to be so ahead of the game and making sure I have lots of interviews booked and keeping coming up. And then it's hit me, man, as soon as hockey starts, I don't know how I'm going to fit it around because they have games every day, at least for the first round. I'm going to have to start stockpiling, only release one a week here, just parse them out so I can get through the hockey season. Cause you're going to see me interviewing like this. I'll have a TV over here. I'll be, yeah. Oh, he scored.
You need to set it up in front of you. Like, so you,
exactly.
Right?
You'll just see, I'll just have I have to get on some real talkers that can go. I'll have to get my dad on here, let him just talk for 3 hours and I'll just watch the game.
Hey, you're talking about my D partner. Don't talk about him like that.
Oh man, if you would hear him talk about the old timers, the stories he comes back, you'd think he'd be playing the NHL. You'd think he's getting ready for training camp right now for the NHL restart. Man, you hear I got 2 goals last night and I got set up by this. Their team has all the good guys that I go with there. Oh man, I loved it.
That was fun.
Good times. Good times. Yeah. Well, anything else before we hop off here, Jamie? Can't say thank you enough for hopping on here, and I'll put all your social media and stuff so people can follow you. You're always doing fun stuff, and you're always a funny guy to get in touch with. If people run into you on the street and they heard you on the podcast, make sure to let them know because I'm sure he's had a fun time, and you want to let everyone know about it. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks for calling me. I really appreciate it. That's awesome.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody else I would want to tell that story with because that's awesome. And just the amount of chills I got throughout the whole thing, I feel like I'm just in a cold sweat here. It's a lot to go through, but no, I really appreciate it. And I think people are going to have a lot better understanding of what we went through as a community. And hopefully some people can have a little bit of healing too, get to hear that story from our point of view and get a little bit, maybe that's a very negative time for some people, and just to hear a little bit of positivity spun in around it, maybe that helps people heal a little bit too. So I know if you are listening to this and you did go through it, it's something not a lot of people can say they came out on the other side, and you may not feel like it, but you definitely came out stronger regardless of the situation. And I think that's something the entire community can hang their heads off of. We went through something that not a lot of people can say, and we're a pretty special community before that fire, and we're an even more special community after.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Yeah. Thanks for having me. That's awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, Jamie. All right. Thank you guys for sticking around right to the end here. Really hope you enjoyed that episode. It was very, like I said at the start, very powerful for me to go through, and I hope that you guys could experience a little taste of that yourselves. Like I said, if you could follow me on Instagram and Twitter at the VonDubCast, that would be a huge help. Like I said, it's a big visual indicator for bigger guests to show them that it does have an audience that cares. If you go check out Dog Island Brewery, go check out the beers they're doing. Mama Eat Chin Chin cookies. They got lots of good new flavors of past guests that if you could find yourself their way, that'd be awesome. It just helps to show that this podcast is having an effect. And just hope I can see you guys next week. Hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait to record more of these for you guys. All right, see ya.